Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 294, and welcome to Sad Shane.
Yeah. That intro is increasingly inaccurate.
How is it inaccurate that I'm sad, Matt?
Oh no, I mean the opening credits.
Oh, you mean our actual show open?
Yeah. Unless I drive around the block before you get here.
Yeah, because it's set in a studio that we had 2 studios ago. Although there is some scene set here in that open.
Yeah, there's some in my living room.
We've come full circle.
I just don't get in my car.
Yeah. If you're wondering why Shane is sad, it's because I just found out, literally 5 minutes before we went live, that Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever the F it ends up being called, was just delayed out of the year into early next year. The first pick on my fantasy team this year that I thought for sure, after drafting it at least one other time, maybe twice, that it was coming this year.
Yeah, I was pretty sure, but like when that last Direct, when they put Xenoblade in September and they put Pokemon in November, remember I said, I'm like, oh, it doesn't look good for Zelda. And sure enough.
What the hell
I think they're holding it for the next system.
What the hell are they doing over there, Kyle?
I think it's done. I think it's feature complete at the very least. I think they're just holding it for the next system. It's a huge, much bigger sales. They've learned that. Launch with a Zelda game and you're big. You're huge.
Ugh.
Tail end a generation with a Zelda game and you get about half the sales.
We've never had like a season be over before March. But that's pretty much what's just happened. Like, our fantasy league is pretty much done.
Yeah, because you've lost that in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And
so now I need both my alternates, and one of my alternates got a 4.
Yeah, Babylon's Fall was
it was a Metacritic of 4.
And I've lost one. I guess not officially, but Baldur's Gate 3 is not coming out this year.
Yes.
It's not hitting 1.0 anyway. So and both of my alternates did okay, 80-ish. So. Yeah, I don't know. You're going to need something catastrophic. I get to happen to one of my like Lego Star Wars is going to have to magically drop to next year in the next 5 days. So, which I'm not ruling out. That could happen. I don't trust that game. I'm not going to trust that game till I hit start on the credit screen on the title screen.
It's just insane. We've been doing this now. How long has our fantasy league been going? 8 years now? 7 years? Because we did it before we even really launched Sifted the first year.
2015 was the first year.
And every year, I tell myself, okay, this year, I am going to be so conservative. My number one goal is to just make sure I get all 10 games. And it never happens.
Well, like I said,
something always happens.
Like I said, you can't let Zelda go. You can't, if you have a chance in the draft to get a Zelda game and there's a decent chance it's coming this year, and I think there was a decent chance to believe it was coming this year, after all this time and the announcement of a 2022 release date, not a date, but they said 2022. I think it's you can't just let me have Zelda. It was a reasonable pick, but that's the risk with Nintendo especially.
What the hell are they doing?
I mean, like I said, I think the game's basically done. I think they're just holding it for sales purposes. I think it's a financial choice. Because look, man, all you got to do is make Breath of the Wild again, put 9 dungeons in it. Then you're done. That's all I need from Breath of the Wild.
Well, maybe a bigger job since there were no dungeons in the first Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, so they should have saved up some ideas since then, because they haven't made a Zelda with dungeons since.
Exactly. It's been a long
Skyward
time.
Sword. When was the last Zelda game before that? Yeah,
that would be it, I guess.
Yeah, because Breath of the Wild was the direct sequel to that.
Yeah. Anyway. As you can tell, the big news of the day is that Zelda's been delayed into 2023. Spring 2023, is that what they're saying?
They said spring, yeah.
Everyone's assuming
I'll see you in spring 2024, Zelda.
Everyone's assuming that is now the release date for the next Nintendo console. Do you agree with that?
No. I think the next Nintendo console is at the earliest end of next year. Probably begin. I think they're going to stick to a March release because it works so well for the Switch. And I think that's when you're going to see Zelda. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do a tail end release of Zelda at this point. The launch for Breath of the Wild was so good and so inextricably tied to the system. I don't know, I know it's frustrating and everybody wants to play it now, and it's probably frustrating for Aonuma and the team as well, but it's like, if I'm running finances at Nintendo, I'm like, we are going to make way more money if we launch this with the system and make it backwards compatible with the previous Switch.
So is this what's going to happen with Zelda from now on? We're going to get one Zelda per console generation, and then the second one like laps over with the next one?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think it should be that difficult to do like a Majora's Mask style kind of asset reuse game. That's small. You know, Majora's Mask was not as ambitious as
it was
Ocarina.
much smaller.
They made it pretty fast.
Had a unique angle,
a bunch of different weird ideas. And it was a very different game. It wasn't just like we're gonna, it wasn't like Mario the Lost Levels and we're gonna dump like a bunch of new, things we didn't put anyway. So I think you could do that, but like I think I've always maintained that Breath of the Wild 1 felt like a tech demo for an overworld and an actual Zelda game, and not a full Zelda game because of the lack of dungeons, like a story, like all that
content,
like
really.
a progress really in it. I think that's what happened there. Is now I think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be like the Zelda game you imagined when you played Breath of the Wild and was like, oh, this would be great if it had the stuff that I want out of a Zelda game in it.
The crazy thing too about Breath of the Wild is it hasn't really had the legs that some of the other Switch games have had. Like it hasn't stayed in the charts like Mario Kart has.
No, well, I think it's because it was such an early adopter thing. I mean, everybody got with at launch.
It still sold amazing.
Still sold really well, but it was the thing you picked up with the system for a very long time. And but in the end, like that is not a game that keeps the kids busy.
Yeah,
you want Mario Kart because more than one person can play, and it's same thing over and over. It's a more replayable thing as opposed to expecting the younger siblings to just watch the older sibling run around in an open world. I don't think it had that much of a tail on it, but I would imagine the attach rate for the Switch is pretty damn high on that game.
Yeah, initially it was sky high.
Yeah,
but
initially they sold more copies of the game than they sold.
Then they had
Switches.
Systems. Yeah, people were buying the game before they even actually had a Switch.
Just in this assumption that like when I find a Switch, I want to play this.
This is what I want to play now. Yeah.
Which I did. I don't
think it's ever happened before, and it probably will never happen.
I mean,
again.
I did that with some N64 games before I found an N64. I had Shadows of the Empire and Killer Instinct Gold before I had the system.
Dreamcast, I did that because they put their games on sale before
they started coming out early.
I think I had Ready to Rumble boxing.
Ready to Rumble was out early.
A couple ones. NFL 2K. I think
NFL
I got it early.
was out like 3 weeks early. Yeah, it was some of the 2K stuff was out real early. And so was like Capcom put their stuff out like a week early too.
I don't remember that, but I know I had at least a few Dreamcast games before I actually got the system on $99.99.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Japanese version, so I was already ahead of that curve. But like, yeah, it was. I remember that. I remember seeing Ready to Rumble on shelves way before the Dreamcast was ready to come out here.
That franchise never came back. That was it.
It was the second one.
Was there?
Yeah,
there was Ready to Rumble
yeah.
too.
It was Ready to Rumble.
I don't remember that. Huh?
I remember it had like an aquamarine, like green logo instead of the yellow. I'm pretty sure that happened.
It all starts to blend together after a while. That's what happens when you've been doing this for a long time. It's like the old saying goes, I've forgotten more than you know at this point. Anyway, here we are. It's GameFace 294. We have a great show for you guys today. We have 2 huge games we're going to talk about. A bunch of other fun topics. Some other news that did break here in the last 24 hours. It did make it into the show. Obviously, Zelda was a little late, but we ended up talking about it anyway because that's how we roll. Did anything else break, by the way?
I don't think so. Yeah, Ready to Rumble boxing round 2 was the thing.
All right. Before we get going, though, let's take a look at our chat. Looks like it's locked and loaded already. Let's see if there's some Twitch Prime in here. I'm sure there is. Yep, there is. PTOR91, thank you. Corey Film, thank you for Twitch Prime. EDH420, thank you. Toast9, thank you. Toast, you've been a great help in the Shane versus Elden Ring streams. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you do a good job of formatting all your suggestions for me as well and describing them in a way that I can accomplish them very easily without having to do a ton of online research. So thank you, man. And you guys should show up for that too, by the way. It's every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Everyone in chat helping me get through Elden Ring. It's a lot of fun. I don't really like the game all that much still. I enjoy the working together part of it with you guys, trying to solve it and trying to get through the game. The game itself, still not a huge fan. Norix Nessie94, thank you for Twitch Prime. Gohan Rage, thank you for Twitch Prime. Mega Drive Guy, thank you for Twitch Prime. I think that's it for the housekeeping.
Also, man, that really is going to wreck a lot of the draft, like the public draft.
Oh, yeah, the Sifted Fantasy Challenge. Yeah, a lot of people, they're screwed.
Yeah, whoever didn't pick Zelda and picked 10 games that actually did come out this year, it's going to happen again.
Well, remember last year,
Yeah.
the person that won was the only person out of hundreds that actually
Pick 10 games.
picked 10 games that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that.
So whoever did that, that's your winner.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Like, I saw that and I was like, yeah, this year in Matt and I's draft, I am just going to be crazy conservative. And I was, to a fault in some cases, like picking Babylon's Fall. Like, I was like, I know that game's coming out, and I picked it. It's a Platinum game, and it ended up being like Platinum's worst game it ever made. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a trip. But anyway, it looks like my streak is coming to an end, my 2-year streak. It's a shame that it's over already. It's not even the end of March, and it's already over. Oh, well. Just one less thing to keep track of in my mind at this point.
Unless
Okay.
like more things fall out for me, but I don't see anything on my list. I mean, most of my list is out already.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, most of mine is too, because I went really conservative, but
Just waiting on Stray.
yeah, that one might be a little dicey. It's looking dicey anyway. We'll see. Anyway, let's kick off the show proper. We're going to talk first about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, or, as I like to call it, and you can see in the lower third, Borderlands 4. That's really what it is. I feel like they positioned this game and marketed it as this new kind of spin on the Borderlands formula, but it's really not.
Yeah, I mean
It's really just Borderlands 4.
yeah. I do think it's better than Borderlands 3. But yeah, it was a little. It was, even though I knew what it was a little shocking how much it's just Borderlands again.
Yeah.
Like, to the point that, like, I don't know. I guess I thought there might be more melee stuff in it because it's D&D, but it's no. You're just basically using machine guns that shoot arrows.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but it's weird.
It's a weird game. That's a good way to put it in general, really.
Yeah.
It is. So basically why I was fooled into thinking that it was something different is because when they first marketed it, I actually thought it was wasn't even a shooter. I thought it was like some crazy like RPG type thing because they sold it initially as the tabletop RPG setting and blah, blah, blah. And while it's in there, it's really just a beard to send you off into these first-person shooter missions, essentially.
Yeah. And you see the cutscenes and all the characters are using swords and stuff. And I just thought maybe they were gonna do maybe like a like a Dark Messiah of Might and Magic thing or something. Like you can do that. You can Skyrim did it. Like you can do a Borderlands Skyrim thing and figure out some melee with that.
But it's really just another shooter.
But no, it's just it's
just
a
loot shooter. Yeah.
And they kind of make a cursory direction at like it's just little crossbows or the pistols and like like some of the guns are like they shoot magic instead of bullets and stuff.
I mean, the guns look like guns.
Yeah.
Like the only way you would even know
use
they're
a lot of the
shooting
same
arrows is sometimes they stick in the enemies.
Things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they even use the same manufacturer names as the Borderlands guns.
Yeah.
And some of that makes it's like they're people in the Borderlands universe playing D&D, so they're going to use things that there's jokes about that where she's like using C4 for things. And they're like, "Can't you like make that a little more fantasy-ish?" It's like, all right, fantasy 4.
Yeah.
Like, use that. And it's like, okay, I mean, it's funny, but it's like, it's kind of, you're lampshading like what you're doing, but it also doesn't really solve the fact that this is the same game that we've played 5 times.
And you were just seeing the setup there. Essentially, the setup is there's 3 characters from the Borderlands universe who are playing tabletop RPGs. Tiny Tina is the dungeon master. And
The bunker master.
Right. And that's the premise for the game. There's really not much of a plot per se.
It's a general D&D campaign, really. It's you're fighting an evil necromancer, and then evil necromancer. At one point, the evil necromancer turns out to be somewhat independent from Tina.
Right.
And that's sort of the. I mean, the real like angle they took with this is like, what if we did Borderlands, but we got really, really good voice actors to do all the characters, like professional known actors to do so you've got Tiny Tina as Ashley Birch as usual.
I want to bring something up about that. She drives me crazy.
I think that's intentional.
So here's what after
Tiny
playing,
Tina is not meant to be a likable character,
and she's voices the whole game.
Yeah,
it's like sitting down and listening to Gilbert Gottfried do stand up for like 14 hours straight.
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison.
It's like Gilbert Gottfried. I like hearing him tell 1 or 2 jokes, and after that, I gotta turn him off. And the Tiny Tina, the same way. I hate that she narrates this entire game. It drives me bonkers.
I mean, she is in the title.
I know. I get it. But she does that thing over there. like constantly. And look, I like Ashley Birch. I worked with her for years at Game Trailers on Hey Ash, What You Playing? She's awesome. She's an amazing person, very nice, very likable, very polite, very talented.
Yeah, I mean, she's very talented at this role. It's just that's what the role is.
It's so annoying.
And she's very good at it.
I guess. Like, good at being annoying?
Yeah.
Like,
Tiny Tina is supposed to be an annoying character, I think.
Why would you choose
funny,
to have that?
Because that is a kind of humor that there's an audience that likes that. I don't mind her. I just don't. I don't really have a response to her for most of the time. I do. The only thing I find annoying about her is because of the nature of the character and the way she performs the voice, sort of like rising and falling. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's very hard to hear what she's saying.
I found it hard to hear the voiceover in this game in general.
Of several of the mixing is very strange. The music is too loud.
I had to change
in default
on my brand new receiver. I had to change the setting on it. I usually just play on at Dolby Atmos. I could not hear the voices at all, so I changed it to like cinema or whatever that boosted like the center channel.
Yeah, I had to play with that a bit and turn my system way up to like make sure I hear. And I mean, at a certain point, I'm just going to turn the subtitles on because I can't.
I usually turn them off, but you're right. Like I feel like
I never turn the subtitles on, but in this case, I'm like, man, I just keep missing the end of Tina's lines because she like drops her voice a bit.
Yep.
But the voice acting overall is very good. I mean,
it is. The rest of the voice acting I loved, and it's not that. Like, she doesn't deliver a Tiny Tina performance.
Oh, yeah.
Tiny Tina's just annoying AF.
Yeah. I think that's intentional.
It's the character.
That's the character. But you've got, Valentine is Andy Samberg. What's the robot's name?
What happened to him?
He's still doing stuff.
Seems like he just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine finished, so now he's kind of moving to his new things, I think.
Yeah.
And then Wanda Sykes is the robot, whose name I can never remember. And
not Claptrap.
No, the
Claptrap appears.
The other player.
The other player.
The other robot who's playing. The robot is playing with you.
Oh, I don't remember its name either.
Yeah, and then Will Arnett is the necromancer, the bad guy. Which is funny because I know Will Arnett just sounds like Will Arnett, but like it really is like you're playing against BoJack Horseman as a necromancer. Like he just sounds exactly like himself, and so there's a lot of, and he's kind of got the same sort of weird self-entitled, like self-aggrandizing thing that BoJack has. So it really does sound like BoJack is a necromancer in this game, which I kind of enjoy. Yeah, it's. The writing's funny. Like it's good. Like the Tiny Tina like kind of parody stuff has always been sort of where the writing team on these games seems to have just been let loose.
Yeah,
and they're clearly having fun here.
The writing's pretty good for her character in particular.
Yeah,
it's just a delivery that I can't stand.
Yeah, and I like all the in jokes on RPGs and various things. I enjoy that. They're doubling down on the butt stallion thing.
Johnny Hurricane in chat says, how many different versions of baby can you get in one game?
Turns out a lot. There's a lot of them.
She does use that term a lot in the script. Delfino says everybody wants Ashley Birch to STFU even though everybody loves her. That's accurate for me. I do love Ashley. She's a great person and she's talented, but in this game, man, she just drives me bonkers.
I mean, I don't think in this maybe, I guess. Like, Tiny Tina is an interesting character to triple down on for Gearbox because, like, I would have to imagine there's a fair chunk of people who just do not want to listen to her talk for very long. Certainly, just when she started showing up in the Borderlands games, and people were just like, "It's like, oh my god, I was so happy when her quest line was over."
Because I didn't have to hear her anymore. Yeah,
but like
they doubled down.
They tripled down. I would say because they did the Tiny Tina DLC twice already, and now they've done a whole game about it. I guess we'll see how that sells. I don't know.
Yeah.
So but overall, overall I like it.
The production values in the game are fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. There's some weird performance stuff in it.
I've had some frame drops.
If you get disconnected from Shift, which happened a lot early on because the Shift wasn't working properly, like it drops like you get like full second-long freezes like every 15, 20 seconds to the point that I had to restart the game a few times.
Have you managed to play with anyone online cooperatively?
No.
Me either. I sat there and it will just never connect with anyone.
It didn't work for the first few days.
Yes, I just tried it yesterday. It still didn't work.
So they're working on it. They also, like, the shift codes weren't working. So, like, the first shift codes were supposed to expire yesterday, and they extended that to Friday because no one could use them.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just, it's Borderlands hosed down in fantasy RPG juice.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
That's all it is.
It's still elemental stuff, really important as far as what elements you have attached to your weapons. The loot system is insane.
I would say it still uses. I would say it's a little freer with how you get to utilize all that because it's not all tied to your weapons anymore. Because like the magic, so instead of grenades, you use magic stuff, and the magic stuff is actually really versatile. And I kind of wish I'd known that before I picked a class that does not emphasize magic.
Yeah. Although, like Elden Ring, you can kind of reshape your character.
Mess with it, and like when you get to pick the second class later, you can kind of mitigate that. I haven't felt like handicapped by it really, but it's just, like
I chose like a mid guy that was good at both.
I picked the claw bringer, the claw.
That was my second class that I picked whenever they give you the option.
Because you got a pet dragon.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that looks good. Yep. So, which is pretty cool. And I also liked it because the super was like Thor, like you throw an electric hammer, but it turned out that doesn't really work all that well. Like that's it, like you throw the hammer and it lands and it creates like an electric field, and then you can pull it back and do double damage. But like it doesn't seem to hit flying enemies.
Yes.
And like I'm like, there's a lot of weird hitbox stuff in this game.
So my character, I have actually two compatriots that follow me around.
That's literally an assault rifle. Like there's no way around that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're guns. Like it even has like a laser sight on it.
It's a magic sight.
Yeah, I mean at a certain point they're just freaking guns. They're not like bow guns or whatever you want to call them. Whatever.
The first gun you get tries.
It does
to be a little handheld
because it does look like a crossbow. Yeah, but then
you just sort of.
I mean, this one even has like a red dot sight.
He's got a red dot sight and a hollow sight. Because you need both.
But my character now, I have two compatriots. I have the dragon who flies around and burns people up, and then I have the little mushroom dude that looks like a penis. Right. So it's like me. I don't even need to play cooperatively with someone else because I have two other characters with me, and you can level all those guys up.
Oh, yeah. And for a while, I had one of the magic I was using summoned a Hydra to burn people. So it's like, I was almost the necromancer from Diablo at one point.
Oh yeah. Most of my magic has been ice. It freezes people, and then I just use the melee to finish them off because it just breaks them into a million pieces. And then here's this weird...
The overworld?
Yeah, what the hell, dude? Like, I get they're trying to make it like an RPG, but it's just weird.
Yeah, it's not very needed.
No! Why is this in the game?
Because it's part of RPGs. Like, that's why... And some of it's funny. Like, it's some of it's there for comedy. Some of it's there to be annoying. I love the tall grass thing because that's just a
random
Pokemon
encounters
reference. But then if a random encounter pops up and you just melee it doesn't happen.
Right,
which is great because it's like, okay, I was like, we're there, but we know you're going to be annoyed by this after about 5 minutes. So while we don't let you hit Tiny Tina, you can hit the monsters. And
there are some nods to Pokemon in this little open area here. But it's just annoying, and it's like, why? It's very slow and clunky, and I don't understand why they put it in the game. And this is one of the things that threw me off when they first showed the game. They showed a little clip of this, and I was like, whoa, okay. Maybe it really is just kind of like an RPG with some shooting tossed in, but no. It's all just kind of frivolous.
No, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
It's a Borderlands with some RPG tossed in.
Yeah. The plot, I don't know. It doesn't carry the game, I don't think.
No, I mean, it's a moment-to-moment thing more. It's what you want to see what happens in the next scene with the characters.
And some of the crazy stuff does happen. Like, there's the one scene where you, like, drain the whole ocean.
Yeah. There's some stuff in there that happens where it's like, that is a nice nod to the weird shit people try to do in D&D games. Like, it's like, oh, let's seduce the drawbridge. Yeah. And then that's actually what happens.
Right,
So it's like, that's funny. Like, it's definitely different enough from Borderlands that I didn't feel like I was playing the same thing tonally again. Like, because I'm really tired of Pandora. Like, if this was literally Borderlands 3 in the sense that like you're gonna make me play through another Pandora thing looking for another vault, like I would not even have tried it.
Yeah,
like I'm done with that world.
I will say this: I agree with you. What you said right off the top is that you like this more than Borderlands 3. I also enjoy this.
Yeah, I think this is a way better game than Borderlands 3.
The setting is just more interesting.
Yeah.
Like the sci-fi stuff, it just kind of worn out its welcome by Borderlands 3. Like I played
I don't care about
12
the
or 13 hours of that.
The sirens or anything like I'm done with all that.
Yeah. Like this is just, for whatever reason, it's more interesting, even with the annoying voiceover that
because it's not taking itself quite so seriously.
Yeah.
It's and I know that Borderlands always had a sense of humor, but like especially Borderlands 3, there came a point where, like, as Peter Griffin would say, it insists upon itself. And it's just like, okay, I didn't like how Borderlands 3 played very much, and I can't really explain why. And some of that is in here, I guess. Like there was an element of 3 that just felt like, oh, I think you forgot what made your guns fun in the first place. And there's some of that in it. Like I have not. The only shotguns I've found in this game are the magic ones that shoot like this arc of energy.
Yeah.
And I cannot figure out how you hit things with it. Like sometimes it hits. Sometimes I'll shoot twice, and the first wave hits, and the second wave doesn't hit, and like the enemies are in the same freaking place. I cannot figure out a consistent way to know how I'm going to hit people with the arc shotgun.
I think the aiming in this is worse than Borderlands 3, honestly. It feels less responsive. I don't know if they did that on purpose because they're supposed to be like bows and arrows.
I find it pretty consistent.
It's not bad.
Overall, but it's been so long since I played Borderlands 3, I couldn't really say.
It's not as snappy as Borderlands 3, meaning it doesn't help you as much as Borderlands 3 does.
Yeah, somewhat. I don't know.
Yeah, the aim assist is a little less generous.
As soon as I started getting assault rifles, I was at home again because I play Borderlands with burst assault rifles, and that's my it gives me the precision for headshots over and over and over again because that's just what I do. I spec for critical and I hit you in the face. That's it.
And here we're showing what happens when you die in the game.
Same thing as in Borderlands. If you kill a guy before you run out, like you get your life back.
Yep. Called a death save.
So once again, who cares? Just like in RPGs.
And after a while, you can like train your minions to revive you as well. Mm-hmm. Like the little mushroom penis dude. Like you can go into his tree and you can set him up so that he'll revive you when you go down. So yes. It's hard to die for good in this game. I think it's only happened to me a couple times throughout.
The only times it's happened to me is when I accidentally killed myself because I didn't know what I was. The first time I died, I looked at one of those big ice barrels and I just hit it with my melee attack. And I'm like, what does this do? And it kills you.
It killed you, yeah.
And then another time I was backing away from an enemy and I fell off a cliff. Those are the only 2 times I've died.
Yeah.
And then there was another weird thing where, like, every time I fast traveled or popped up into a different thing, it would pop up the message that said, "Thanks for resurrecting. We've taken your money from you." And I was like, what the hell is it? Like, every time I just like moved anywhere on the map, and I'm like, what? And I realized that my money wasn't going down, and I looked it up, and apparently that is a bug in the game still, where it'll pop up the last respawn message, and if the last time you respawned was you died, it will just keep telling you that it's taking money from you, even though it isn't.
I've had it crash twice, too.
I haven't had any crashes, but I have definitely had it. You lose connection with shift and start getting very weird, and I had to reboot it. And also, this game does not like quick resume. It does not like quick resume. It hates quick resume.
The first time it crashed was when I got the second class. It went to the interface to let me choose it, and it just went and just barfed.
Actually, something when you get to after you get to the kind of past the early stuff, and it lets you out in the city to buy stuff for the first time. Like the city is available for the first time with the merchants and everything.
Yep.
I went out into it, and I could not interact with anything. Like, the U's would come up, but the button wasn't there, and I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't activate anything. I couldn't get any quests.
This code is not completely clean.
No.
At launch.
So I mean, it's kind of
pretty good.
Kind of Gearbox standard.
Yeah, like, you're right. Yeah. Mostly good, but some issues here and there.
It'll get there.
And then the loot. The loot is just completely overwhelming. I'm sure you've been watching this B-roll, and you've watched me finish off a couple enemies, and you get that very rewarding shower of loot that comes down when you
everything in that shower is useless.
It's all useless. You're
gonna find one good gun every 2 hours. Maybe.
Yeah,
and honestly, both of the main guns I use, I bought from vending machines.
Me too, actually.
Because that's where I found that's exactly what I want, and I just bought one.
You can get significant upgrades from the vending machines.
Which has not been true of the Borderlands games for me before. Usually I just use what I find, but it's very hard to find in part because of how heavily the elemental stuff factors in. I'm very picky about what I want to use. Yeah,
because I don't want to lose my ice because it can at the very least it stalls enemies.
Yeah, whereas mine, I do fire damage, but I automatically set people on fire when I shoot them, and I want a weapon that enhances that.
Yeah.
So that's it's a struggle sometimes.
It's like Destiny. The loot is like, it doesn't depend on, okay, I beat this boss, so I get a good piece of loot, guaranteed. Like, that's not how it works. No. It's like, you could get the best gun that you come across from just some rank and file enemy, and Destiny's like that too. Like, it's not basically like, oh, I beat a tough enemy, now I get loot that I'm definitely going to use. There's just too much of it. Like,
and on top of that,
fills up so quick, and you're constantly having to, like, drop stuff on the ground to pick stuff up or stuffing it in.
I just got really picky about what I pick up.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not worth a certain amount of money, I'm not going to pick it up.
In the interface, you can compare what's on the ground to what you're using, but it's kind of slow, and like you have to go into the interface and you have to keep going back over to the left-hand side. Like,
Yeah,
it's a little
is
inelegant.
Even just selling stuff is weird because
Yep.
the cursor, for whatever reason, when I sell stuff in a game, I expect after I sell the thing, the rest of the stuff in the inventory is going to move up, and the cursor will now be on the next thing to the right.
Me too.
And in this, it jumps back to
Back
the
to
left.
the other panel. Yep.
Like,
I don't know why.
Why?
I don't
Why
get
would you
it.
do that? That is the least.
And especially
and
in this game,
it's so unintuitive that I've accidentally sold equipped stuff before.
Yeah, I've done it on accident too, and because it's just there's so much. Like there's just loot everywhere at all times. Like
now, to be fair, you can there's a lost loot thing. So if you don't pick up stuff
that's actually decent,
yeah, it'll pop up in the little vending machine later, the little free vending machine.
It'll just dump it all on the ground. But usually by the time you get there and you get it, the gear's so old that
and they know it because you can upgrade how many items that can hold.
Right.
And it's
so
like,
okay,
start
dropping off the old stuff. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, the loot in this game is just way overdone. It's just there's so much.
I mean, that's Borderlands. It's just how Borderlands is. But I don't think in any of the other Borderlands I've spent so long not finding something useful.
Yeah, I've used the same guns. I'm scared because when I was like, oh, this has to be better, switch to a different gun. I hate the gun.
Yeah,
and I regret getting rid of the gun I was using before. So now, like you, I've become very reluctant to get rid of a gun that I like using.
Yeah, well, I would never get rid of the gun before I've tried the other one for a while because exactly that. It's like they're all so weird that you never know what kind of weird quirky element is going to be like, nah, this doesn't work for me.
Sometimes you only get like a 3-round burst on some of the guns. Mm-hmm. And like if you like to use full auto or whatever, like it's almost worthless to use, and I just end up dropping it and using something else.
I don't think I found one that doesn't let you switch between things, although sometimes it's burst or semi-auto.
Right. Yeah, sometimes you can't get full auto. It'll be like, right, you can squeeze off one at a time or 3-round bursts, but not.
And I
full
never
auto.
use full auto, so I don't really.
See, I use full auto, but I burst fire with full auto. But I like having the option if I want to squeeze the trigger a little longer to finish off an enemy. I like having that option there.
The one I'm using currently and have been for a while is burst and full auto switch between.
Yeah.
So. And I have used full auto for bosses. Just you just want to empty the
magazine
into them. It makes more sense usually.
But on the whole, I am having fun playing this game. And unlike Borderlands 3, where I had played like 12 or 13 hours, came in to talk about it on GameFace, and never really went back to it again, I'll keep playing this. I'll give it some more time and play more of this, whereas I did not do that with Borderlands 3. I definitely think it's a better game than Borderlands 3. Its Metacritic average, it says that. Mm-hmm. Its Metacritic's at like an 8 or something like that, and Borderlands 3 was at like a 7.2 or 7.3 when it was all said and done. And I think that's about right.
Yeah.
An 8 might be a little high for this game. I don't know. It's around... It's roughly accurate, I guess.
It's about right if this is what you want.
Yeah.
I guess I'd say. Like, if you don't like Borderlands, I don't think this is going to change your mind.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's not going to change.
Because it's the same game, really.
Yeah.
It's just a mod, basically.
Vincent is asking if this is Gearbox's last Borderlands game, is it a worthy send-off? Because, rumors have been swirling that the franchise is going away and Gearbox doesn't want to make it anymore.
I mean, I can go with that because I don't want to play it anymore.
Yeah.
So I could see them making another one of these.
Another Tiny Tina?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to sell very well. I mean, the initial sales in the UK were not good at all.
I don't think people know it exists.
Yeah. And I don't think people will know that it's like a Borderlands game. Although I have been seeing TV commercials for this on ESPN and the usual networks when I actually do watch television. I've been seeing some ads for it. So they are spending some money trying to get the marketing out there. But I mean, I don't know. Is this a worthy send-off? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than rehashing Pandora again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that they changed it for this instead of just literally releasing Borderlands 4.
Yeah, and I don't, and I'm glad they didn't end it with 3.
Yeah.
Because I felt 3 was I think that's a pretty generous score for 3.
7.3 or whatever it was. Yeah.
I walked away from Borderlands 3 with no reservation whatsoever, and 1 and 2 I played for 100 hours each. And part of that might just be I played too much Borderlands 1 and 2. I never did really get into the pre-sequel very much.
Yeah.
But,
Borderlands 3 just didn't leave a lasting impression on me at all.
No. And I can't really explain why. It just didn't. It just wasn't. It just didn't have that certain something the other Borderlands did. And this does. This kind of recaptures it.
Yeah. But it's still, there's not that much different about this than the Borderlands 1.
No. I mean, it's a little smoother. It's a little bigger. It's more variety in things. The other thing that I thought was interesting is that there's collectibles obviously in all these games, but like the collectible, one of the main collectibles in this are 20-sided dice, like lucky dice you find. That actually, every single one you find actually does increase your loot find chances.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wasn't aware of that.
Every collectible in this game ups a stat for you.
Huh.
Like the marbles up your strength, the poems up your intelligence. Like you can check that on one of the screens in your character thing, like the level up screen. You hit the D-pad over and you can see that, and like it really doesn't make that very clear, but like it is very, very, very much in your best interest to find all of those dice, because it does affect finding better loot.
And there's a lot of them.
Even if that loot is not, there's like 20 in the main town, like 12 in the first real dungeon. Like there's a lot of them, and they're very hidden. Some of them are like, I don't know how you'd find this without a guide, kind of stuff.
I'd agree.
And they give you some stuff.
Sometimes they're even like hidden under like stuff that you break.
Yeah, like there's no hint sometimes.
Yeah, like when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. Like I need to be like breaking all these boxes that I see everywhere. Okay. But yeah,
that sucks.
What?
Like you killed the guy, so everyone died, and you had no one to kill to come back to life.
Yeah, so I beat the boss. We killed each other on the same shot. And then when I respawn, I've killed the boss. So the game did account for it. I didn't have to fight the boss again, luckily. But you're right. It was like a weird situation there, like an anomaly that I'm guessing they didn't think would happen all that often.
Bunko makes a good point there where he notes that the skill timers are much faster in this. Like even for my character who is like supposed to have like it's like a extra recharge time for the spells are ready in like less than 10 seconds.
Oh, for me, they're ready in like 5 or 6.
Yeah, the spellcaster class, there's almost no downtime for it. The cooldown is almost non-existent.
Yeah, it does create a better flow of combat.
Yeah,
because you can mix the magic and the guns in a lot better than you could in prior. I believe in prior.
Yeah, the synergy of just the skills and everything is probably the best it's ever been.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it was such a simple tweak too to change it for the better. But,
although I am tired of hearing my character when the spell recharges, hearing her say "spell yeah."
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, Bunko is right. The magic cooldowns are way shorter than they have been in the past, and it makes magic just a regular part.
Yeah,
of the combat.
Even your ultimate move you can use almost every couple of minutes.
Yep.
Like it's much faster.
Yeah, so I would say I've had a good time playing this game, and I'm not the world's biggest Borderlands fan. Would you recommend people buy it at full price, Matt? And this is 60 for PS4, 70 for PS5.
I don't know. Like, I don't regret buying it, but like, I don't know. It might be worth waiting until the drought hits more later in the year, because I bet you'll be able to pick it up for $40 in June.
I mean, isn't it kind of here though?
A little bit.
April's
I feel
pretty
like
dry.
People still playing Elden Ring. People are still playing Horizon. We're not done with the stuff that came out in March yet.
Yeah.
But this might be a good summer game if you can once it hits like that 6-week discount.
I wish I had got a chance to play it with other people. I wish it would work so I could tell you guys whether it was altered or changed, but it's just broken still. I could never get anyone to match up with me when I try to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's the same as playing Borderlands.
But how do they scale the enemies? Do they scale the enemies at all? What about the bosses?
They're scaled
to
you.
To beat?
They're scaled to your difficulty. So if I'm playing on a high difficulty or a higher level, like as I understand it, like to me, my gun will do less damage to them by scaled to me, whereas you will do more damage to, and they will do less damage to you.
So they will typically in the past it would scale to the higher leveled player.
More it scales to the difficulty you've chosen.
Oh.
So it still respects the difficulty setting you've chosen, even if we've chosen different difficulties.
Okay. Gotcha.
Which makes you wonder why you can't do that in Elden Ring. Anyway, if this can
scale
that, if this can do difficulty modes that happen in the same multiplayer game,
right, yeah. It is
Just
tricky
saying.
though, figuring out how to make cooperative games like this with loot and things like this work.
And there is an option to, like, you can either have the loot be cooperative or competitive. Whereas like cooperative, everybody gets the loot, and competitive is like old style.
A race.
Like, whoever picks it
I
up
hate
gets
that.
which I can't imagine thinking that's fun in this game.
Yeah.
Like it's
because loot's everywhere.
Yeah.
The best drop
and so rarely is the best one is anything good. So like one person gets the best one. I think it's actually generated differently for every player.
Okay. So every player sees different loot, is what you're saying?
I think we would both see like a green, but as I understand it, I think we would see different levels of stat of that green.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
But I don't know what the scaling is per like Clawbringer. That's what it was. I don't know what the difference, like scaling would be for like if I was like level 25 and you were like level 7.
Yeah, it's not easy to do. Ubisoft has struggled doing this with The Division. Like every loot shooter has this same problem. In fact, how would you place this in the pantheon of loot shooters among like Destiny 2 and The Division 2? One thing I realized recording Good Morning Gaming last night for today's episode is that it's been a while since there's been a real high-profile loot shooter released.
Yeah, well, so many of them are just ongoing that, like, I mean, Destiny 2 didn't go away. They've released new stuff constantly. Yeah. I just haven't played it.
But there just aren't that many new ones anymore.
No. I mean, I feel like that market's sort of saturated.
What was the sci-fi one with this, like, kind of like Gears of War cross with it that just came out?
Oh,
But it's from Square Enix, I believe.
Started with O.
Or an R, I thought maybe.
Over...
But that's the only one.
It was on Game Pass, and it was like,
that's the only one I remember recently that was like pretty
Overkill,
good.
Outsiders,
something like that.
Outriders.
That's it. Yeah, that's really the only one though. Like it's been they've really slowed down because you're right. These games are supposed to live on forever. Ubisoft launched like a couple of battle royale shooters, but not really.
The Division is kind of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Division 2, absolutely. It's still alive and kicking.
Yeah. Again, you just don't hear about it much.
Yeah, but there are people that are still playing it. There's still tens of thousands of people that are still playing it. But the output for this genre...
Yeah, Vincent's right. Godfall counts.
Does it?
Yeah, it's a loot. It's not shooter,
it's
but
not a shooter,
it's a loot.
It's a
loot.
hack and slash.
Yeah, but it's the same game. It's a run around with co-op and kill things and pick up glowing objects and equip them. Like it's the same.
It's a loot-driven game, but it's not a loot shooter.
I would say it's this. I would equate it to Borderlands. Like I would not play that and Borderlands at the like
I would not play Godfall at all.
Well, no,
because there's no shooting in the game.
No, but what I'm saying is they are filling the same niche.
Yeah.
Like Godfall is much more like a Borderlands Destiny game than it is like a Diablo replacement.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. It's a loot-driven game, but it's just not a shooter. It's melee.
Yeah, I just don't think that matters very much.
But yeah.
I wish this was less of a shooter. I wish they'd explored the melee options a little more.
I think the melee sucks in this, though.
It does, but that's what I'm saying.
It feels so bad.
That's what I mean. That's why I say I wish they'd like really revamped it and really leaned into it and figured out a way to make it work.
Because it does. I do feel disconnected. It also feels like I will miss by like 4 or 5 feet and it still hits the enemy.
Yeah, the range is deceptive in your favor. Weirdly,
it helps. Yeah,
but
it helps a player,
and it does depend on the weapon type. Like the axes seem to have an extra couple feet on them than the swords, and the swords have almost all the swords I've picked up have like these weird negative thing. Like they drop.
They'll take
the
away
stats.
your health or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
Again, like a lot of the loot in this, like I sit and look at it for like 20 seconds, and I'm like, wait. It's a wash with what I have right now. It's really hard to tell whether you're actually upgrading stuff in this game in general, I feel like. And therefore, I don't. A lot of times I just stick with, like you said, like I just keep rolling with the same guns. And
even some of this stuff with like the skills you get are like there's tier, because you got to put enough points in the tier to get to the next tier. But there have been a couple times where I'm like, I don't care about any of the 3 skills I now have access to. And I did appreciate that Borderlands' skill tree they took up the whole screen. It was this big thing. This one's like this tiny little column in the middle, and sometimes I'm like, what is that? Like, I can't tell what that is.
All the symbols look very similar, too.
Yeah.
Like, they're these little shields with icons on the shields. And I'm like,
Well, and then, like, even worse, there's items you can find that are class-specific that will boost your abilities by a couple points and whatever. But the items don't say the names of the abilities. They just show the shields.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I supposed to know what that is?
Well, they show you like the one that you're equipped. They just show the icon. They don't say have the word next to it at all.
Like, I don't know what.
I have no idea what they are. They
all look the same. I will after I get used to my character. But like early on, I'm like, is this good? I don't know what that does.
Yeah. Going back though, I don't think we ever answered. Should people buy this at full price?
I said like
you said like later on.
I think wait until you're out of things to play, and it'll probably have dropped to $20. It'll probably be cheaper. Yeah.
What would you recommend people pay for this?
I mean, it's a pretty solid $40 game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. 40, maybe even 50. I would spend
Yeah,
on
like
it.
I'm not upset I paid full price for it.
Yeah,
but like,
I don't feel like I was ripped off or anything.
Yeah, it depends if you're like into this style game or not, or you like Tiny Tina, or you think that this would be like your brand of humor, and most of it is for me. Although sometimes it's just a little too, I don't know. Like sometimes I see where they're going with something. I'm like, yeah, get on with it. Like I see what it is. But every once in a while, there's something really fun. And again, every time Will Arnett's on screen, it's great.
The writing's good. Like the jokes are good. I legitimately have laughed at a bunch of the jokes in this.
And also it really matters that you got like 3 top level comedians
delivering
all of it. Yeah.
And again, no disrespect to Ashley Burch. I love you, Ashley, but man, that character, and it's just a character, and I just hate that character. I hate Tiny Tina. And the fact that they made an entire game based on that character boggles my mind.
Well, there's moments where Tiny Tina doesn't bother me really, but like there are moments where I'm just like, I can't believe people willingly play D&D with her. Like it seems like it would be very annoying the way she kind of rolls the game,
right?
and like changes things on the fly. And like,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a quality game. And I think the best way to put it is like, if you liked Borderlands before Borderlands 3, you're probably going to like this game a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to
say. Or even
if,
for me, like Borderlands 3 was a disappointment, but I like this quite a bit. So like, even if you don't dismiss this just because you didn't like Borderlands 3, would probably be my most important takeaway if you're choosing.
I think you should also set your expectations for mediocrity because it hasn't changed that much.
Yeah, it's still the same thing,
Borderlands
but
games.
it just scratches the same itch that Borderlands 1 and 2 did so well in a way that works much better than 3 did.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm glad that it didn't go out with Borderlands 3. It's really my takeaway is like I just. And I have all the stuff. I bought the whole deluxe thing for Borderlands 3 because I thought I was going to be like playing it for a long time. It's just like, no.
Yeah.
I just didn't.
I'm confused about what's happening with Borderlands, Gearbox, and Tiny Tina. So Embracer bought Gearbox. 2K owns Borderlands.
Yeah.
This game, when it opens, has 2K branding in it.
Yeah.
So 2K owns Borderlands and Tiny Tina's?
Tiny Tina's part of Borderlands.
Right. Okay. So anything that Gearbox does after this is going to be something completely brand new.
Yeah, unless they, deal with 2K on it. Yeah.
And they're going to hire 2K will now hire some other studio.
Someone else will make
Borderlands stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of the last hurrah from the OG creators.
Yeah.
Of
unless Gearbox fails to find footing as they strike out with new things, and whoever 2K gets to take over Borderlands sucks at it, and then they make a deal for Gearbox to come back and revamp Borderlands again.
That seems like a long shot, but
we'll see in about 7 years.
But you're saying there's a chance.
Oh yeah, I think there's a non-zero chance that somebody realizes like, you know what, this works, and maybe we should just not rock the boat.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like Gearbox. Sometimes I am a little amazed that Gearbox is still around. I mean,
after everything,
after all that stuff,
because there's been a lot of stuff. Yeah.
After Medieval Times Gate and
all of it,
Aliens, Colonial Marines Gate, and
they're like
weird.
The cockroach of the game development studios.
Like
you can't
blow
kill
up
it.
with the guy who voiced Claptrap,
right?
It's just
one thing after another. Yeah. Didn't he leave something at like Medieval Times?
Yeah, that's what I said. Medieval Times Gate was like he left a flash drive with a bunch
of porn on it or something.
It had like it had like confidential documents about proposed game pitches or proposed documents for games and stuff. But it also had like pornographic Twitch stream recordings on it from some girl that Randy liked watching.
Good times. And somehow they survived.
Randy Pan, the goat boy, leaving his drives around.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I think that's 2 semi-enthusiastic thumbs up from us.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, if you can find it a little cheaper, if you can hold on, if you're playing Elden Ring or you're playing Horizon Forbidden West, like if you wait a couple months, I think I'd feel a little bit better if you bought it at the $40 or $50 level.
Yeah, it feels. I know it's a full game, but there's still part of me that feels like it should be like considered like a spin-off or a filler. You know what I mean? Like,
it is very repetitive. I mean,
and it's about as big as Borderlands 3, if judging by the quest list and how much content. About 20-hour game total. If you just go through the main stuff. But like, I don't know. There's part of me. Am I crazy that like part of me feels like this should be like a not full price game?
It gives off that vibe.
There is a little bit of that to it. Yeah,
I feel that too, for sure. So we recommend you try to wait a month or two and let it drop a little bit, but I don't think we begrudge anybody if you're a fan of Borderlands at picking it up at full price.
No.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another game that has land in the title, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And I keep mixing those up, whether one has an S on the end of land or one doesn't.
Yeah, Wonderlands and Forgotten Land.
And Forgotten Land, yes.
Or as they call it some places, Kirby and the Last of Puffs.
Or Puffin' Stuff, as I've titled it in the lower third. It is, and now that I've really played a ton of this game, I really do struggle to call it a 3D platformer now. Do you?
I mean, it's in 3D.
You're right. Yes. But you do not have the freedom that you have in most 3D platformers.
I mean, it's a 3D platformer, but it's a 3D platformer the way Super Mario 3D World is, not the way Super Mario 64 is.
Yeah, you can't control the camera in this game pretty much at all.
No.
Like it'll let you.
It doesn't even have camera inversion options.
Right.
Which is like, I mean, it doesn't matter.
When
that
you
much.
try
just
to
don't...
like move the camera, it's more like a suggestion.
Yeah,
for the
I gave
game.
up. I gave. I'm just gonna live with whatever you show me. That's just what this is.
And for the most part, it shows you what you need to.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much like an old style, like kind of almost like what the old 2.5D games were, where you just got to trust that the camera's panning over to what you need to know.
Yeah.
And mostly it does.
Yeah. It's functional 95% of the time.
Yeah, it's way more successful than most games that try to do this are.
Yep.
So,
but really, it is kind of like 2.5D. There's a lot of fixed camera angles where you're playing from a side angle or a top-down angle or an isometric angle. But I think as you said, it's handled predominantly well throughout most of the game, and that is a lot of work. Making sure that every scene has the right camera angle so that players can experiment a little bit. Though I would argue that also, unlike a lot of 3D platformers, kind of the experimentation isn't really present in this game either.
Yeah, the experimentation is not in the platforming; it's in the powers.
Yeah,
like that's all. If you shouldn't be here. I mean, Kirby isn't really a very platformy series in general. Like the fact that he can fly, more or less, sort of like blows that out of the water most of the time.
Yeah, it takes away a lot of the platforming because you can just fly over top of a lot of the platforms.
It's more about puzzle solving and getting through the enemies, or like figuring out what you need, what powers you need to like deal with the environment, or rather deal with the environment properly to open the thing you need to find the hidden thing. Like there's a lot of hunting for stuff.
Yep.
In this.
And obviously, we played the demo when it came to the eShop not that long ago, and it had like 3 stages on it, but it didn't really show us how the game was structured. And
yet it
designed.
kind of did.
A little bit. I mean, it showed you that most of the levels were self-contained and that they weren't connected to each other. And it wasn't this big open world.
Yeah, but you didn't get the Waddle Dee town here.
Yeah, you don't get like the home base here where you can go and you can level up your powers. There's all these, as you save the Waddle Dees in the levels, you come back to this town, and they will have built stuff for you. A lot of it is just frivolous and stupid, like a movie theater where you can go and watch like clips. There's a coliseum that unlocks a little later on in the game where you can go and fight in a coliseum against any of the enemies that you've bested in the game. And there's like this one where you can go and input codes. There's Kirby has a little hut you can go to where you can sleep to refill your health. Although that doesn't really matter because the game is so easy.
Even on wild mode.
Wild, yeah, which is definitely not wild. And really, what makes it so easy is what you alluded to at the beginning. He can fly.
Yeah.
So you always have this saving grace where if things ever get hectic, and they rarely do, but if they do get hectic, you can just fly up out of there. And just get out of trouble and fly someplace far away. And very few of the enemies fly. And the ones that do are a pain in the butt to deal with because the game isn't really set up for you to deal with enemies that fly. But for the most part, they're on the ground, so you can just kind of jump up and just take off and get out of trouble and land far away and give yourself plenty of room to prepare for the enemies. The overworld is what you're seeing right now is kind of like just this big connected thing.
Yeah, it's just a big map like the Mario
games.
Like,
and they're all connected. Like, and you go and there's like themes. So this one right here is like the amusement park theme, and then there's the snow level.
It's not actually like post-apocalyptic ruins for very long. It's just that's just that first world.
Yeah, which is weird, don't you think?
Yeah, and then it jumps right to tropical beaches.
Yeah,
it's like all right.
But it does have the typical Nintendo themes levels. It has like the snow level, the desert level, the tropical level, the amusement park level. All typical Nintendo tropes. And honestly, video game tropes. Most games do stuff like this. But I have to say, Matt, I love this game.
Huh.
Have you been enjoying it?
It's fine. Like it
See, I think it's better than fine. I've really been having a lot of fun with it.
I just find it kind of fluffy and empty. Like I don't have any complaints about it. It's Kirby. It's fine. It's not particularly compelling to me right now. And I think maybe it might be later. But right now, when I'm swinging my attention between Horizon 2, Elden Ring, and Tiny Tina, and this just feels like those feel like going, maybe Tiny Tina less so, but it feels like going from like full meals to like just cotton candy.
I mean, it is.
And there's a space for that, but I have not been going back to this as often as I've gone back to Tiny Tina.
Interesting. So I've been the opposite. I have wanted to play this more than I've wanted to play Tiny Tina. And I agree with you. It is very vapid, and it is definitely made for kids.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like that's a bad thing. It definitely like I don't need like a deep and heavy Kirby game.
Right.
Like, I'm like, you know, I don't think it should be that. It's just it's not grabbing me in the way that like some of the other things I'm playing right now do.
Well, you can make games like this and still make them relevant to older players. Like,
yeah, I don't think this is irrelevant to older players. I think if you don't have some fun playing this game, I think you don't really like video games.
Maybe,
to some degree.
yeah.
Like there's a universality to this game that I think is sort of undeniable.
But like if you go and play like Rare's classic 3D platformers, like you can play that as an adult and enjoy it. There's innuendo in the games. There's nods for adults in the games. This has none of that.
No.
It is straight up saccharine from beginning to end. It is made for kids. It's also very easy, as you said. Putting it on the wild difficulty setting, really? That's supposed to be wild? Like, even 6-year-old kids are going to be able to play the hardest difficulty on this and really have very little issues with getting through the game. But where the game comes alive is in Kirby's powers, because there's so many. You can also upgrade all of them, at least one level. And then the mouthfuls, where the stuff that he transforms into in the game. It just... The pacing of the game I think, is great. Like, it just feels like you're always getting something new to fiddle with or try. A lot of the stuff, the game isn't just beating you over the head with how to use it or what it does, and you have to kind of fiddle around with it and figure it out. Like, I like that. And that's one way where the game really isn't designed for kids, and kids may become a little frustrated with it eventually, is that it doesn't just blatantly explain how everything works and what you should do with everything that you come across in the game. And I like that about it. And it changes constantly. Like, each of the levels aren't that long. It probably takes, 20 minutes maybe to get through each one?
If that.
If that.
I mean, especially if you're just going through it and not looking for all the Waddle Dees.
Yep.
You could get through. I mean, all the secret things in there. Like, that's fun. And eventually, it does have a language to it. You do eventually learn, like early on, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was going to be a bonus thing I should do.
Yeah.
And then later on, you're like, oh, that's the bonus thing. Like, you recognize what it's saying to you. So there is something there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't tell you what those secret things are until after you've completed the level for one time.
And most of them are different for each level.
Yeah, and it is fun to kind of try to get through and figure out what the secret thing you need to do is and that kind of thing.
Like you saw in the last level, I was collecting ducks for a mama duck.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that's something that you're supposed to be doing until you come across a duck and it starts following you around. And you're like, oh, okay, this duck is following me. I wonder if there are other ducks. And then there are. And you find the other ones. And then you come across the mama. And then the mama's like, oh, okay, you gave me 4, but I need 5, which sends you back through the level to try to find that one duck. And every level is like that, and there's different ones in every level.
Yeah, they do unfold very organically.
Yeah.
in that regard, it doesn't.
I mean, this game is, I think, brilliantly designed. So to go from one stage to the next, and then ultimately to fight the final boss in each area, you have to save X number of Waddle Dees. But generally, like what I found is, if you just play through each level and at least try to rescue the Waddle Dees, you end up with enough to unlock the boss at the end of the level.
Yeah.
Like, I never had to go back and play this one over again because I need to get 9 Waddle Dees instead of 7 that I got the first time I played through it. And then there are levels like this that are scattered in each area, which are just kind of like these little mini games that you play. Some of them literally will take 5 to 10 seconds to complete. And if you complete these, you get these kind of crystal stars that you take back to the home world, the Waddle Dees home world, and you use those stars to then upgrade Kirby's abilities. Any of the caps that he gets or his inhaled abilities. And so there's just always something to do. There's always something different to do. If you get tired of just playing through a level, you can go and play these little side missions and collect the glass stars that you need to upgrade. Go back to the home base, use them to upgrade, head back into that level that was maybe boring you or frustrating you before, and play through it with the new abilities that you've unlocked. The levels themselves do a great job of just providing the variety on their own, because you'll get tons of Kirby's power-ups. Before you fight a boss, a lot of times they give you a choice of which power-up you want to choose right before you go into fight. So if you have some that you've leveled up and some that you haven't, or there's just some that maybe you're better with than others. Like for me, I always choose a sword before I go into a boss fight. Link's sword, the Master Sword. And every boss fight I've managed to beat in literally like a minute.
And I pick the bombs.
You use the bombs.
Yeah.
See, it's whatever you're good at. But I like that it gives you the choice of
and
what...
then even if you lose it, the bosses constantly spit out these stars you can inhale and use as projectiles, like all... and also, if you inhale more stars at once, it hurts more when you hit them.
That's true.
So there's there's some strategy to that.
I think the game is brilliantly designed. I never got tired of it. I always wondered what was around the next corner.
It nicely embraces how weird Kirby is, just in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And the car stuff is fun. Like, it's...
I'm just not in the right frame of mind for it right now. Like, I'm like everything I'm saying about this game is really more like a criticism of me.
Oh,
I'm just not.
You've been playing these serious games.
Yeah.
You're right though. It does put you in a headspace sometimes where you're just not gonna want to play certain things because you're in a different type of mood. I get that. I found this to be, like, a lot of people were saying, oh, Horizon Forbidden West is going to be, like, a palate cleanser for Elden Ring. I think this is the palate cleanser for Elden Ring.
I think this is a much more drastic shift from Elden Ring, like this. If you want something different from Elden Ring that doesn't feel like what you've been doing, this is a more, Also, you're much less likely to compare this to Elden Ring directly from a design perspective, and I think Horizon you are, whereas, like, I love Horizon, but there's moments where, like, I don't really agree with a lot of the whole Horizon's trash in open world design compared to Elden Ring, but I certainly see why you'd be comparing the two. And this is, this is going to give you something like just much so divorced from what Elden Ring and Horizon are doing that, like, you're either going to, like, find it incredibly refreshing or, like, just not engaging compared to what you could be playing otherwise. And I'm feeling the latter, but I can definitely see how someone would feel the former.
This game never settles into a pattern. So I was talking about Tiny Tina, about how it felt repetitive after a while. I never feel that way with this game because you can choose what you want to do, and they're all so varied on their own. So like I said, if you get tired of this amusement park world, and I will say this, by the time I'm ready to fight the boss in each area, I am pretty much sick of the motif that's in that area. But if that does happen to you, you can just start picking some of the little side things along the way, and you're still gaining something that's worthwhile because that helps you upgrade Kirby's abilities.
I did find the side things a little annoying because they're timed.
Some of them are, not all of them.
Most of the ones all the ones I played were like, you just got to complete them and you'll get the rare star or whatever. But like then there's the whole like, oh, the target time was this, and that drives me nuts.
No, I just complete them. I don't care. I don't care if I get like the super star or whatever on each one of them. All I care about is being able to keep going forward, and the game is good at that. Like I said, you don't have to go back and replay levels because you're like, oh, I need 3 more Waddle Dees. Then I don't have enough to, like, unlock the boss fight in this area. At least I never had to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of nice, like, one thing, I don't know why this touch jumped out at me, but when you start the beach area, the second world, and, like, everybody's got little, like, flotation rings on them because you're in the water. If you throw a bomb... The bomb has like a flotation ring on it. Which is really cute.
Like, kinds of cool stuff like that in this game. Like the attention to detail in this game, I'm really impressed by this. I think it's the best Kirby game ever made. I don't know if that's a tough bar really to...
I don't know. I haven't played enough of them to really... I played the original and I played whatever the one on 64.
The Crystal Shards or whatever.
And I played the mech one.
Yep.
I think those are the only ones I've really played.
I played a lot of Kirby.
To any great degree.
And this, to me, is the best in almost every way. It's the best playing Kirby. It's the most variety in a Kirby game. It's the best looking. It appears that the attention to detail and the actual effort that was put into developing this is a whole other tier higher than usually Kirby games get. Kirby has usually been the game that's been neglected by Nintendo, or the franchise that's been neglected. It's B teams a lot of times creates the Kirby games. I do not feel like a B team made this game. It has a lot of the stuff that great Nintendo games have, just all these little hidden things in it that you discover and you're like, oh wow, like they never used to do that with Kirby games. They never went that extra mile to fill in kind of just the basics of the game. Now, one criticism I do have is that the enemies do get a little repetitive. Even like way late in the game, a lot of times you're still fighting the enemies that you see in the very first area of the game. But as far as what you're doing, the levels themselves, how they handle them, how it works with all the mouthfuls, the stuff that you inhale, like the creativity to me is just like off the charts. I never got bored playing this game, ever. There were times where it was a little too saccharine, and I was like, oh gosh, like I feel like a 5-year-old playing this game at times.
Yeah, my times to stop tended to be when I'd finish a chunk of levels and go back to the world map and like where it wants you to pick the next level, and I would just be like, no.
Yeah.
Like I found it very easy to stop when I'd go back to the world map.
Interesting. Basically. I did not find it that way, especially once I unlocked the home base, the overworld. You could go back and like level up your stuff. Because
that helped because then it gave it more of a flow. But early on, before that happens, like in the first world, I really struggled getting through the first world. It took me like three game sessions.
Oh wow!
To do that.
Okay.
And then once you get through that and it opens up a little more, I was like, okay, so it's not the same thing. You know, now I'm on the beach. It's not the same thing anymore. And you know, you get the town opens up and like, I guess you can go to that earlier, but there's not really much to do. Until you get the ability to upgrade things. I was like, okay, I see now. Like, it's not just like, you know, it's not just like mindless complete level.
Well, the upgrade abilities stuff makes a big difference in the abilities. Like, it completely changes how they work and how effective they are. So I would, as soon as I knew that I got like a blueprint, because what you have to do is you have to find the blueprint to upgrade, and then you have to have the materials in order to upgrade. But again, those are usually easy to collect. But once I upgraded the first one, I was like, oh, wow, this makes a huge difference in how you use this. And then every time I get a blueprint and I finish a level, I would immediately go back to home base to level up that other ability. But I am totally hooked on this game. I have not quite finished it yet. The other thing, too, is this game is big. Like, I've played, I don't know, I haven't looked at the clock, but my clocks are always wrong anyway, because games will sit idle for me for hours sometimes.
Yeah, I leave stuff sitting there for too long to
so
really
I can never look
that.
at my game clock, but I would say roughly I've probably spent 13, 14 hours playing this so far, and the last time I saw the percentage, it said I was at like 30% or something like that. So, and I know a lot of that is like how much crap that you've collected, and I don't really pay attention to that stuff, so I'm not collecting a lot of it. But it's a pretty big game. This isn't one of those games that you're going to play for like 8 hours and it's going to be done. Now, I would argue that with the hardest difficulty setting still being really easy, and there's not a lot of incentive to go back and play it again. Like, you can skip past kind of all the little side missions that I was talking about. You don't have to play hardly any of those unless you want to level up your power-ups. So, you know, if you skip those, like, maybe you run out of content to go back and play again. But for the most part, when you finish this, you're probably going to be finished with it. I don't think most people are going to want to go back and 100% it or anything like that. But I'm having a hell of a good time the first time through. Again, my favorite Kirby game ever.
Yeah. I feel like the thing that's going to be this to me is Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I do, I do, again, not to be repetitive today, but, like, I can totally see myself going back to this in, like, July when I have nothing else to play, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is exactly what I want right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't disagree with anything you're saying, really. It's just not doing it for me right now. Even that, it's like, look, little Mario Sunshine. Little Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, as I kept playing this game, like, more stuff like this just kept being rolled out. It's just, at first I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And then every stage there was something else that was, oh, that's kind of cool. And it just keeps adding up. I see Squeegee Muffin says 8.5 hours main, extras 11 hours. I mean, I've played that more already. And again, maybe that 37% is like, maybe the 60% of what it's trying to count is just dumb collectible stuff. I don't know. But I've already played that much, and my meter says like 37%. So I don't know. Maybe there is only one main area left. I'd be a little disappointed if that were the case, but it seems like the game is anywhere near wrapping up for me. And I've already played it a ton. And I've already, honestly, like, if I had bought this at full price and Nintendo hadn't sent it to me, I would not feel ripped off right now what I played of it. So I wholeheartedly recommend this for people who are Kirby fans, absolutely. Again, I think it's the best Kirby game ever. But I think games that you're looking to play with your kids, because this is cooperative as well. You can play it cooperatively with your kids if you want to. And I just had fun playing it in general. Now, I will say this. It is so kid-oriented and so cutesy that there were times that I thought to myself, it's a little weird that I'm sitting here playing this by myself. And that's what I talked about in today's Good Morning, or actually the day before's Good Morning Gaming, was looking at quote-unquote kiddie games in 2022. And how it was like a different discussion back in 1996, because a lot of the quote-unquote kiddie games were literally the best-looking and best-playing games on the market. Mm-hmm. But now, like, you can play adult-oriented games that play and look just as well, or better in a lot of cases. And so my impressions of quote-unquote kiddie games have kind of changed over the years. And this is a quote-unquote kiddie game. And I did feel a little strange at times. I was like, man, if, like, an adult walked in the room and saw me playing this by myself,
We're gonna put you on a list somewhere.
Yeah. But it is cooperative, so you can play it with your kids if you want to. And I know a lot of our patrons and our listeners and viewers do have kids at this point. They're older. And I think this would be a great game to play with your kids, because I really enjoyed it on my own. And playing it along with one of your kids and enjoying something like this together, I think could be really awesome. So I recommend this game wholeheartedly. I've had a ton of fun with it. Also, graphically, the game is a stunner. Mm-hmm. It has all kinds of graphical trickery in it that you don't see in a lot of Nintendo games, like fur shading all over the place, bump mapping. Like,
it looks real clean, and like there's a surprising amount of detail and everything.
Yeah, it's almost crowded.
Runs really well.
Yeah,
loads really fast. Like there's I don't really have anything negative to say about this game.
Yeah,
really, they did a really good job.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with it. Like it's just one of those games that I'm pleasantly surprised by. Like, it may be when we do our Game of the Year awards at the end of the year, where it's like we have the category like most pleasant surprise. This is my early pick right here.
This is there's an element of me, there's part of me that's just like, I wish I was in a better frame of mind for it right now. Like, it just didn't. Yeah, but I
mean, Elden Ring does kind of take over your psyche a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like level 210 in there now. I've been playing that game a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played it anywhere near as much as you have, but I can see what it does. It does kind of change your mood when you're playing it. Not just because of its difficulty or whatever, just the tone of the game and everything about it.
It's also like that mood is much more close to how I want to feel right now, or how I am right now. And Kirby's a little too happy.
It is. It's like, I remember back in the day, and I was like 18 or 19, I used to hang around with these sharp skinheads. They were sharp stands for Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. So they were skinheads, but they were anti-racist skinheads, and they would go around looking for Nazi skinheads. Anyway, I've told the story about hanging around with these guys before, but one time we were at a bonfire party. We were all standing around drinking, and these yuppie dudes showed up. They were friends of the guy who was throwing the party. And we were only kind of friends with him, and he was kind of preppy or whatever. And we're standing around the fire, and these dudes show up, and we were listening to like punk rock music at the bonfire and like alternative and indie stuff. And these dudes roll up in this Jeep and park next to the fire and just start playing their own music. And so my friends were like, oh, what is going on here? And then they started playing like really corny music, like the B-52s and stuff. And
you know that as classic rock today, kids.
Now it is. The final breaking point was they played Shiny Happy People. And my one skinhead friend walked over to the guy, and he's like, look, man. He's like, I was tolerating this shit for a while. He's like, but I just reached my breaking point. And the guy goes, what's wrong with you, man? You don't like Shiny Happy People? And he stepped right up to him nose to nose and said, I hate Shiny Happy People. And then
I am neither shiny nor happy.
And then they fought.
Oh, wow.
They literally got in a fist fight, and the whole party got ruined.
That is not what Michael Stipe would have wanted.
But anyway, talking about tone, like, this is like the Shiny Happy People video game. If video games were at a bonfire, this would be Shiny Happy People that would piss off my skinhead friends.
I'm much more in a radio song, Losing My Religion place right now. So
a funny story.
At the very least, Man on the Moon.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget that when he just said, I hate shiny happy people. That's hilarious. So anyway.
Now, if you want to really make that fight happen, you go, that's funny because you are pretty shiny.
Yeah.
That's how you get hit first.
Yeah, exactly. Just a funny anecdote. But anyway, I love Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I've had a blast with it. I fully recommend buying it at full price. Hide while you're playing it if you don't have kids. If you don't want to feel a little embarrassed playing it. But if you have kids, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Or if your wife walks in while you're playing that and gives you the look, you just go, hi.
Honestly, I think my wife doesn't care if I play games like this. And in fact, she'll be like, can I play too? When she sees games like this.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd prefer Kirby to like whatever.
Oh, dude, Elden Ring
bouncy
sends her running, dude. She's like, oh my God, this is like demons or whatever.
Demons?
Yeah.
Demons?
Yeah, she hates stuff like that. So
it's me, your boy.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Switch exclusive, which I failed to mention, but I think you guys have all figured that out.
Yeah, I think we can figure
this out at this point. But I recommend buying it at full price.
Weirdly, also on Stadia.
Yeah. It'd be more likely that than PlayStation or Xbox.
Yeah.
I'd say that much.
Although, I don't know, Nintendo tends to not align themselves with a loser.
That's true. That's a good, well, it doesn't align itself with anybody.
No. Because they think everyone's a loser.
Right, by default, it won't align itself with
I don't
losers.
know, they play nice with Microsoft now and then.
That's true. A little bit, yep. So anyway, go buy it. I think it's well worth the purchase. It came out on Friday, and I'm having a ton of fun with it, and I will absolutely finish that game. I did finish Ghostwire Tokyo, and that was like the first game I had finished in like forever. I think I might finish this one. It's nice to play some games that aren't like 100 hours long for once, and I can actually finish them.
I agree with Nox Alternative. I would play the Kirby Sad Dad game. like a God of War revamp of Kirby with a beard and everything I get. With a little puffball. That's to learn from him.
The Fire Native Stadia, that still exists. It does kind of.
Yeah.
They haven't shuttered it yet, but I think it's coming soon. They're just working on like B2B stuff. Like how do we get it in your TV and and they changed the name now. It's like Google Streaming or something.
Yeah, it's not like a gaming service anymore.
Yeah.
It's like it's a streaming tool or something. I don't know.
My guess is the consumer-facing Stadia doesn't last through the end of the year.
No, I think they're going to try to turn it into a business tool of some kind, like a Zoom kind of alternative. If you don't want interaction and you just want to have a convenient way to stream a big meeting to everybody in your company or something, use Stadia, something like that.
Well, I think they'll sell it to TV manufacturers so that when you buy a new
integrate
TV,
the tech for like cloud streaming or whatever.
Yep. So they're just going to live, but not as we know it, I don't think.
No.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about something that just broke that's not Zelda getting canceled, MFers. And that is, we finally learned about, what we thought was going to be PlayStation's answer for Game Pass. But as we found out today, it in fact really is not that at all. It is just a revamp of PlayStation Plus. And it does not appear that we are going to receive a competitor to Game Pass at all from PlayStation, at least not in the immediate future.
I mean, not in the sense of a day one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is doing Game Pass-y stuff.
Yeah,
but
except for the first-party games on day one, which is honestly
a big chunk of the appeal, really.
85% of the appeal for me of Game Pass is that. The other 15% is finding new indie games or playing indie games that I would have probably passed on.
Yeah.
The big third-party stuff, it comes so late to Game Pass typically, although there's some exceptions, obviously. Back 4 Blood is one. The shooter we were talking about earlier, that was day one on Game Pass.
Yeah, that was day one.
Yeah. So there are a few, but for the most part, the third-party stuff is coming pretty late to Game Pass. So to me, the big selling point of Game Pass is getting Microsoft's exclusive games day one and getting indie stuff that I would never pay for, but now I'm playing because it's just sitting there waiting for me to play it. And you'll get that part of Game Pass with PlayStation, I think. But what you're going to start seeing now is competition between Xbox and PlayStation to get those games exclusively on their service. I believe, anyway. I think there'll be bidding wars for these indie games, which is great. Because that just means these small indie developers are going to generate more revenue off their games than they would have otherwise. Their games are going to be in bidding wars. So I think that's a good thing. I can't see many downfalls to that. Can you?
Not really. I mean... This really turned out to be nothing in the end. Like that, the essential level is just the same PlayStation Plus we've already had, and that is certainly what I intend to stick with. So to me, it's basically a non-event.
Yeah. It ended up being nothing also because we already knew this information.
Right.
Because it had been broken by Jason Schreier at Bloomberg and other people.
A lot of times there's like a little more to it, or like it's like
there really wasn't.
It wasn't. There's nothing.
But we'll run through the final information for you guys because you may not have seen episodes where we talked about this prior. Starting in June, PlayStation Plus will be available as a 3-tiered service. There are tiers called Essential, Extra, and Premium. Essential is the cheapest. It is $10 a month. However, it is basically just what you know PlayStation Plus as right now.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. You get 2 free games a month that come with PlayStation Plus. You get to play games online. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They have not taken away the annual cost. So I was worried that $10 a month, that's a lot. It's $120 a year. And I'm paying $60 right now. It's double. They're not taking away the annual cost. So you'll still be able to buy the base essential version, which is what PlayStation Plus is right now, for $60 a year, which is great, huge, thank God. If they do take it away, we got problems. However, Jim Ryan said that 2/3 of all their PlayStation Plus subscribers are annual. So he made a point to mention that, which means to me he's saying, look, we're not taking this away.
Yeah.
And there are, by the way, 48 million PlayStation Plus subscribers, Matt. Are you surprised by that?
I mean, not really. Not at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. Just multiply that by 60.
If you want to play multiplayer.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the essential tier, which is basically what you have right now if you have PlayStation Plus. Then there's the extra tier. And let me make sure I get this correct. The extra tier... it's buried in my notes. Is $100 per year. It includes up to 400 PS4 and PS5 games for downloadable play, not streaming play. The premium tier, which is the most expensive, is $120 per year. It adds an extra 340 games on top of the 400 from PS4 and PS5. The 340 games come from PS1, PS2, PSP, plus PS3 via the cloud. So they've not figured out a way to make PS3 work natively on the hardware. You cannot download PS3 games.
And they won't.
And they probably never will, unfortunately. But the PS3 games will be there. You just got to play them via the cloud. So basically the premium just rolls in PlayStation Now, which is the game streaming stuff. And also some of the PS1, PS2, and PSP stuff, not all of that is going to be downloadable. Some of that will also be streamed instead of played.
Yeah, they're very vague on that.
Yeah, they were very vague. Like they provided hardly any information. As far as the big first-party games that will be launching with the service in June, they announced Death Stranding, God of War from 2018, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Marvel Spider-Man, Mortal Kombat 11, which is a third-party game, which is strange, and Returnal.
I mean, they're practically giving Mortal Kombat 11 away at this point.
They are.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Existing PlayStation Now customers, which all 5 of you, I think there's actually 2 or 3 million, will migrate to PlayStation Plus Premium at no extra cost right now. So I don't know how long they're going to give you that grandfathered grace period, but at first, you'll keep paying the same PlayStation Now charge, and you'll be upgraded to PlayStation Plus Premium. Essentially, PlayStation Now is now dead.
Yeah.
Because the name is gone.
It's this now.
Yeah. It's PlayStation Plus Premium. Is now...
PlayStation was.
Right. That's good. Jim Ryan offered a couple quotes because games industry interviewed him, and they're like, they want to know, like, what's the plan? Is the plan to eventually have first-party games day and date on the service? And here's what he said. We feel like we are in a good virtuous cycle with the studios where the investment delivers success, which enables yet more investment, which delivers yet more success. We like that cycle, and we think our gamers like that cycle. In terms of putting our own games into this service or any of our services upon their release, as you well know, this is not a road that we've gone down in the past, and it's not a road that we're going to go down with this new service. We feel is if we were to do that with the games that we make at PlayStation Studios, that virtuous cycle will be broken. The level of investment that we need to make in our studios would not be possible, and we think the knock-on effect on the quality of the games that we make would not be something that gamers want. Do you believe any of that, Matt?
No.
I don't either.
But I know why he had to say it that way. So
why did he have to say it that way?
PR. Like
Yeah.
you can't just come out and say that. Like we can't. We don't want to. It doesn't make financial sense for us to give away stuff the way Microsoft does because our stuff sells. So like we're just gonna come up with sort of a weird shadow of what they do, and we're gonna have that in place in case we need to deal with it later.
Do you think that it would be smart to do this, though, once all these games as a service that Sony is investing in are released? Because you're relying on building an audience there to keep buying microtransactions and feeding into the ecosystem.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you don't fleece the early adopters first.
Okay, that makes sense.
And a year later, sure, you throw that on there and be like, okay, now if you want to play, whatever Bungie just made for us, like there you go. It's part of the PlayStation Premium thing. You can get that for no extra charge, but otherwise you got to pay $60 for it.
And also the monthly charges for these, by the way, the base.
Like as soon as it hits PC,
yeah,
maybe it goes like PlayStation Premium.
The monthly charges for this actually ended up being higher than what was reported. It's $10, $15, and then $18 a month for basically PlayStation Now and everything.
Good heavy rain. That'll get me to cough up another $8 a month.
But this is what you're looking at, though. I mean,
Yeah.
with this stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, it's not like I'm uninterested in the idea, like this middle tier, the extra tier, where it's just like, kind of like the PlayStation Greatest Hits thing, where you got a library of I'm like, what in that am I possibly not going to already have?
Right. Yeah.
It's not for me. I'll tell you that much.
Mike's Q says, notice the yearly cost of premium, $120, is the same as essential tier at monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, both $120. And then he did kind of leave a parting shot, a quote that might give us a little bit of hope. He said, the way the world is changing so very...
Darkness 2, look at that. How weird. You bring up the Darkness last week, and here it is again.
And here it is. That's the kind of stuff you're going to get, though, on these services.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like...
the way the world is changing so very quickly at the moment, nothing is forever, he said. Who would have said even 4 years ago that you would see AAA PlayStation IP being published on PC? So he's basically leaving the door open for PlayStation to change its mind. And essentially what I would say is that if they find out that Game Pass is killing it and turning a huge profit, then
they've got this in place.
They're going to let Microsoft be the guinea pig, although good luck getting the data, because Microsoft does not want to share that data.
But they just want something in place that they can adapt and use if they need to, because they don't want to be caught flat-footed if this turns out to be the way of the future. But otherwise, it's a pretty half-hearted stab in that direction.
Yeah, one thing I try to keep in mind when I think about this stuff is that everyone's not like me. They haven't been playing games since the 70s. They haven't played all this stuff already because they haven't been a games journalist for the last 20-some years. So if you're a 13, 14-year-old kid and you're like, and I'm like, the Darkness 2, ha. He's like, the Darkness 2. Like, as generations come on and they come online as far as being able to make their own purchase decisions as they turn 18 and... Then maybe there's a market for this stuff, but
I wouldn't consider the Darkness 2 to be something to pass on to the next generation necessarily.
Yeah.
Some of this
example.
is like, okay, but some of it's like, okay, cool journey, but some of it is like Spec Ops: The Line. Like, if you haven't played Spec Ops: The Line by now, there might be a reason.
Yeah.
It's nice that Heavenly Sword's on there. It's too bad that game has basically been lost.
That franchise is lost.
It's not a franchise. It's one game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they never made another one.
But it's like... that game's trapped on the PS3 forever, apparently. Mm-hmm. So, especially now that Ninja Theory is at Microsoft.
Well, now you can stream it.
Cool.
Cool. Exactly. Vincent brings up that Game Pass didn't start with day one releases either. You're right, but that doesn't matter now because it does have day one releases. It's like they came up with the idea first, and so they got a grace period. PlayStation doesn't have that grace period. It has to... Microsoft wasn't competing against anything else.
Yeah, it's not like you can put a phone out now without a touchscreen and be like, well, phones didn't have touchscreen before the iPad. But things changed.
Yeah, it's not like your BlackBerry and you can show up and be like, now we have a touchscreen and now we're better than that. Like, it doesn't work that way.
You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
No, you can't act like it hasn't existed.
That's the evidence that they are not, Sony is not convinced that Game Pass and the way it works with the day one stuff is the way to success for them here. They just are putting this in place in part because I'm sure PlayStation Now is just sort of sitting there languishing, but also because they want if it becomes undeniable that Game Pass is the method by which the mass consumers want to consume their games, Sony wants to be ready to be able to pivot on that. But if they never have to do that, I don't think this service is going to really change too much.
That was my next question. Why is PlayStation doing this at all?
That's why. Like, they're covering their bases.
For the future?
They're trying to future-proof, yeah.
But don't you think getting rid of PlayStation Now was the right call to do that?
Though they didn't get rid of it, they just got rid of the name.
Right, but they had a differentiator before. Like, they had this other service called PlayStation Now that people were like, that's different than PlayStation Plus. But now it's not. It's just rolled into it.
Yeah, I think this is better.
You think it's a better idea?
Yeah, nobody knew what PlayStation Now was, and like the idea was different. How is that different from PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Network? Like, no, like it was poorly explained. It had the same initials as PlayStation Network. Mm-hmm. I think just having it be an extra service you get from the online service makes more sense and is less confusing to most people.
Okay.
That's not to say that the idea of like, oh, you can't download this, you have to stream it. Why? Well, because it's on PS3. Well, because PS? Now you're already in the weeds. Like, you know, but like if you just kind of sort of get people to accept, it's like, okay, there's a streaming tier to this. Like, fine. You don't need to call it something else. Like, it doesn't need to be a separate thing.
Now the big question: do you think we'll ever see PlayStation first-party games released day and date on PlayStation Plus?
No.
Never, ever?
Not unless that becomes an imperative through Game Pass's success, and it is not yet.
Yet.
Like, if there becomes a point where, like, you're just seeing, like, oh, God of War Ragnarok came out, and it sold 2 million copies, because nobody buys games anymore, because they want a day and date with their Game Pass equivalent. Like, I guess then, but that's not going to happen. Like, this, you know, maybe I guess there might come a day when, like, you want to do that with new IPs you're not sure about, or think, you know, like Days Gone or something.
I mean, I think we can assume that PlayStation's games are going to continue to sell as well as they are. They're going to keep selling 20 million apiece. But do you think there's ever going to be a day where that's not the way to make the most money off the game?
No, not
never
for Sony.
Ever.
Not for Sony. No, I think I don't foresee a point at which, unless you're forcing people into the premium for that, and it doesn't sound like what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
I don't see a point where you're going to make more money milking subscribers with the carrot on the stick of a day one release for no extra charge than you're going to make selling 15 to 20 million copies of a product. Like the especially now that you're charging $70. Like I just don't think the economics add up there. One day they might, depending on the critical mass of things, but I don't. If it is, it's not going to be on PS5.
Chat brought up something that we forgot to mention actually, and that is that also, if you get the highest, the premium level PlayStation Plus, you get the limited game trials. Mm-hmm. In addition to the 700 games and the streaming on PlayStation Now. I don't think that means they're going to be taking demos away from us.
No, I think demos I think are up to the publisher, really.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you won't get demos of Sony games.
How would you feel about that?
I rarely bother with demos in the first place.
Really?
So, yeah.
I mean, I play them a lot for the show.
Unless I'm not sure about something.
Yeah. I mean, I use them a lot for the show for preview coverage if we want to talk about a game like before it comes out. But if that happens, then I'll just invest in the premium and I'll pay for it. But that would suck.
I'm more willing. I'm more willing to get a demo of a game if it carries the save over, I guess. Mm-hmm. But like generally, I don't.
You don't play
a
lot
of them.
Care.
Like I know what I want to play. I know what I generally am not surprised by things. Like I play the demos of some things I'm not sure about. I played the Triangle Strategy demo, just to see.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, or the Octopath demo. But like you put out a God of War demo, I'm probably not going to play that unless it's for the show. Like I don't need to be sold on that game. I don't need early experience with that game outside of like maybe an event somewhere.
Yeah, I think some people just want to play them.
Sure, but I'm also certainly not going to double my online
cost
every year to play the. I mean, no. Like the appeal of a demo to me is it's free. Like,
yeah,
that's not free. That's even less free than the when we say like, oh, it's free on Game Pass. Not really, because you're paying for Game Pass, but like there's a critical mass there where it feels free. Whereas like now that you've moved this thing that's supposed to get me interested in buying a game to a paid tier subscription service, that's a weird move to me.
How much value is there in it for you? Let's say if the game trials ended up being you can play God of War, the next one, Ragnarok, for 5 hours, up to 5 hours, and your save transfers over. Would that be something that would entice you towards that higher tier?
No.
No?
Because I'm still going to buy that game, so why spend that extra money?
Well, you can play it earlier. And
Don't care.
And your save transfers over. And
Don't care.
Do you think there's value for other people with that?
Not to the degree that I think it would be a deal breaker for that.
Chat, what do you guys think? Would you be willing to pay a little more?
But like, if I'm not going to get that game day and date as part of that same service, hell no. I'm still spending $70.
Yeah.
So now I'm spending another $18 that month to play that demo? No.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything for me. Because now I basically spent $88. Because the other part of that is I don't see any weird indie games that I'm going to discover on that server. I just see a bunch of games I've already played, and I see a lot of streaming stuff that I will never touch because streaming games sucks. Mm-hmm. So, and most of the stuff that I'd want to have, move forward and get off the PS3, I have on PS3. But they run better on PS3 because they're not in the fucking cloud. So where's the advantage to me? Nothing.
How do you think they're doing the PS3 streaming, Matt?
Same as they always have.
You think they're playing it on a PC?
I don't know. PlayStation Now has had streaming PS3 games for years.
I know. How do they do it, do you think?
Probably some kind of like dev station server farm kind of stuff.
I wonder. Because obviously the reason the PS3 is streaming only is because it's hard to emulate.
Yeah.
So it's like they can't just have a PC sitting there playing it. Do you think they have physical PS3 sitting there?
I think they probably have dev kit style things. Like I think they are on PC. I think it's like what you'd use for dev stuff with probably the extra RAM or something,
right?
That kind of thing. I think that's what it. I think it's farms of those.
Interesting. So there you go. PlayStation Plus revamp. That's really all it is.
Although Vincent says that, as he understands, they just do have a bunch of PS3s running. Could be either. I don't know.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
At any rate, however they do it, it sucks.
Yeah,
doesn't work
because you're streaming it still.
And I'm not paying for that for sure. That's for sure.
Oh, one final thing. Do you think that they should have come up with a new name for this instead of just keeping it PlayStation Plus?
Judging by the number of people who have texted me asking what it is already today, yes, they probably should have come up with a different name.
Yeah, I think so too. Which is kind of what I was getting at when I was like, why would you wipe out the PlayStation Now name? Because it seems like they just need something.
PlayStation Now doesn't get you anything. It's a shitty name. It always was. It was a stupid way to try to brand that. But a different name, maybe. I mean, the only advantage here is that it was easy to tell my friends, like, the basic tier is exactly what you already pay for, and it's not changing the price. Just stick with that.
Yeah.
And they were fine with it.
And I think that's exactly what everyone's going to do.
Pretty much.
Actually, chat, are any of you guys interested in upgrading from your typical PlayStation Plus subscription to any of this other stuff? Are any of you guys willing to give more money into either of these two new tiers that PlayStation has created for you guys? India Unchained says PS3 streaming on PlayStation Now is awful. I'm not surprised to see that at all. WNerd123, I can emulate any PS2 game I want on my Xbox Series X. What? So you're pirating. That's not good, bro.
That's not pirating, that's emulation.
But you have the illegal ROMs, right?
No, you don't.
Oh, it actually plays your discs?
You've jailbroken the Xbox, but you put the emulator in, you put the disc in the system, and it plays it.
Oh, okay.
That's how my Saturn emulator works.
Oh, I didn't realize it was working with discs.
You can also use ROMs, but a lot of people just put their discs in or rip their discs to the hard drive.
Okay. Not Cirque, thank you for Twitch Prime while we're at it.
Also, piracy doesn't matter that much when it's a 15-year-old game.
Oh, Ian Esquire's asking, when is Game Pass or Fail coming back? Stay tuned, bro. Funny that you should mention that. Erebus Jones, can we get a minute's silence for PlayStation Now subscribers who played on PC only? They got seriously screwed today. So none of these play. No, I
forgot that even.
No, I think these. I read in the interview with Jim Ryan on Games Industry, he mentioned that you'll still be able to do this stuff on PC. I don't think that actually was shut down, Erebus. If I remember correctly, and he says all 15 of them. You're right, there weren't many. But yeah, I think it still works on PC. KC Alpha, I need to know what games are on there first. Fair enough. I mean, we did kind of tell you already. The games that they're targeting: Death Stranding, God of War, both Marvel, Spider-Man.
Yeah, but they're talking about, there's hundreds, so you want to see what that list looks like.
Not Cirque.
Because look, a lot of them, it might be stuff you never played before, but a lot of times if you haven't played a game that's 10 years old, there's a reason you haven't played it yet. And it's not because you haven't heard of it.
Everyone is no. Not a chance as long as Game Pass is better value from Veritas.
Yeah, I just don't see the point.
I will wait and see. No, I am not upgrading. Hard pass, no. You'd have to pay me. No, nope. I guess it depends on the quality of the catalog. We haven't seen that. That's true. That's from Cinetyke. Gino Mike, I'd like to see a list of games, but I think sticking with Essential, yeah, sounds like everyone's just going to do what I'm going to do and just stay with the base plan.
There's nothing enticing about the other tiers.
Vincent says, I'm just upset that my clever PlayStation Now or Never sequel series will need a new name if it happens. There's Game Pass or Fail and PlayStation Now or Never. That's pretty good. Everyone's Nope. Wampler, Nightwing. Mr. Starwalker doesn't even have PlayStation Plus. Yeah, it looks like everyone's saying no. Yeah. So is this a big failure, Matt?
I mean, it certainly seems to be a failure in the kind of the gaming enthusiast circles. We'll see how it does. But like I said, I think they're just future-proofing. I don't think they're... Looking at the pricing and how they're doing this, it seems like they don't really care if you subscribe to the higher level stuff.
Yeah.
Like they want
like a bonus.
They want to keep those 2/3 of annual subscribers on the Essential, and if anybody upsells, great. But otherwise, nothing really changes for them, except they no longer have this weird vestigial PlayStation Now limb hanging off the brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's all kind of self-contained, and that looks a little better.
Now, there is something to be said for branding, and PlayStation has spent a lot of time and money branding PlayStation Plus. So, on some level, I can understand why they've
and certainly PlayStation Plus is the successful one,
right?
So
yeah.
So fold that all in. It's all there ready to go if you need to really mobilize to combat Game Pass in the future in the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you've sort of like shoved it over there. You no longer have to sit through like investor or executive meetings where someone's asking like, well, what about PlayStation Now? Like what's happening with PlayStation Now? It's just sitting there not doing anything. Well, now it's part of PlayStation Plus, which is continually bringing in revenue, so you can shut up about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically, I think, what happened here.
Yeah. So there you go.
And you can tell how little they value the upper tiers because of what you pointed out, or what the chat pointed out, that the monthly cost of the mid tier is the same as just subscribing to the yearly for the top tier. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, that is not a pricing structure that is valuing those different tiers. That is a pricing structure that's saying like, go on. Come on, like what are you waiting for? Like you don't lose anything. Just do that. Just go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I should also add that if you're spending $10 a month for PlayStation Plus right now, stop it.
Yeah, come on.
Buy the annual subscription for $60. You're getting gouged. You're paying double what you should be paying for it. So I don't know why people would do that. Why is there a third of people that are paying for it monthly?
Because there's some people who cannot commit $60 in the same month because they live paycheck to paycheck, but they can afford $10 a month, and that's how they get you. That is
how the poor stay poor.
Right. It's like the old thing in the Discworld books where Vimes talks about how you get a good pair of boots for $5, or you get a cheap pair of boots for $5, but you get a good pair of boots for $10. But he can't afford $10, so he gets the $5 boots. But like the $5 boots wear out after a year, and the $10 boots last 10 years. So he has to buy new boots every year, and then at the end of those 10 years, that rich person has spent $10 for one pair of boots, and he spent $50 for 5 pairs of boots. Yep. The last 2 years each. So somehow he has still spent more than the rich person, and that is how you stay poor.
Yeah, I think that's the trap. The phrase is, it's expensive to be poor. Yeah. It happens with like washers and dryers, refrigerators. Mm-hmm. You can only afford the very cheapest one.
Get the cheap one, and it
buy
breaks.
The cheap one, it breaks in 2 years. Rich person buys the more expensive one. It lasts for like 30 or 40 years. It's expensive to be poor.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's an endless.
It's a man
treadmill.
keeping us down, people. That is how it works.
And it's not like the old days when the washer dryer my mom bought a month before I was born lasted until I was 38.
Oh, my mom's refrigerator from when I was in high school is still in her basement.
Yeah.
As like her backup where she freezes stuff.
Yeah. A bunch of the appliances that were around for my whole life in that house, we only got rid of because my mom moved.
Right. Or they just got ugly.
Yeah.
Or
we're like, well,
they didn't match the kitchen.
She was moving in
anymore.
with my sister, so we're like, well, they're into a new house, so we're just like, well, we'll just get new stuff. But like all that stuff still worked. Yeah. Like it was,
same deal with the stock market. Like the stock market is just a license to make money. Like it is you keep your money in the stock market, you're going to make roughly 12% every year. It's just going to happen. But poor people can't afford to put the money down in the stock market to make the money. It's just
capitalism. And that's also where the hidden stuff goes, because you talk about tax, the tax rate for the executives and the CEOs is that, yeah, I mean, and sometimes you win that fight, but that's because the salary is not where those people make the money. Comes from capital gains, comes from
Yep.
investments, and that's where the taxes
RSUs, waiting for those to vest, and then you hold them. If you hold them over a year, which rich people can do because they don't need the money, then the tax that you pay on it is like nothing.
Yeah, or like the CDs, which are not as good as they used to be in the 80s and 90s. We used to be, you throw like $30,000 in that thing, you don't touch it for 3 years, and it's almost, you get 50% return.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't work anymore, but it used to.
Yep. It's hard to get over the hump, man.
So that's why. That's also why layover exists. You know, or layaway exists.
Yeah.
Not layover. That's flying.
Yeah. No, you're right though.
Yeah, like that's it. And you couch it as like, oh, it's good for you, but in reality, it's like it's like a mortgage loan. You're like 90% of what you pay every month goes to the interest, not to the actual loan.
Rent-A-Center, same deal.
Yeah,
where you go and like rent TVs
they just
by the
keep
month.
You there.
Yeah.
They just keep you in that treadmill.
Rough. Anyway, there you go.
Sony.
There's the non-PlayStation Plus upgrade. And ultimately, you're right. Like, it ended up being a huge disappointment and like almost a non-story.
Yeah, I mean that's not surprising to me.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, how exciting is an online subscription service going to be? One way or
Game
the
Pass
other?
is pretty exciting.
Yeah, but we didn't know that when they announced it.
Right. Yeah. Well, they morphed it eventually into something that became really exciting.
But now it's like, I mean, the Game Pass stuff was sort of like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what? That seems weird. Kind of desperate. And
Yeah.
it was, but it worked.
But it worked. Yeah.
And now I think this is just Sony is recognizing that this might be a successful model going forward, and they want a framework in place for it if they need to pivot that way.
Yep.
But meanwhile, I think they're happy to have everybody just still subscribe to PlayStation Plus and putter along like they have been, and buy their $70 games when they come out on launch day, just like they always have.
Yep. So there you go. We'll come back and talk about this again, probably in June when it launches. Like I'll get like the ultimate tier at least for a month to try it out for you guys. I'll jump on the grenade for you guys so you guys don't have to spend the money, and I will let you know if it's worth the cash or not. I'm guessing it probably won't be, particularly for me because I have all these games already. Yeah. But I'll try to keep an open mind and look at it from the perspective of someone who isn't like me, who maybe is 18 to 30 years old and doesn't have this huge collection of video games sitting at home like I do, and maybe it might be more.
But
viable
hopefully has a really fast internet connection.
Yeah, you're right. Because a lot of this, it does seem like it's going to be streaming.
A lot of streaming.
Yeah,
which really not a non-starter for
me.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next. I don't remember what we're talking about next. About another subscription service. We're going to go from PlayStation Plus to Grand Theft Auto Plus. Matt, have you heard about this story?
Not really, although it sounds a lot like somewhere you'd go to buy oil.
Like Grand Theft Auto Plus?
GTA Plus, yeah. Like
So, as you well know, Rockstar just released Grand Theft Auto 5 for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, and the game's over a decade old. And I kind of wondered, like, why are they bothering? Shouldn't Grand Theft Auto 6 be around the corner? Blah, blah, blah. And now I really wonder why they're bothering, because they announced Grand Theft Auto Plus, which is a subscription service for Grand Theft Auto Online that costs you $6 a month. And for that $6 a month, you get like $500,000 of in-game currency, which if you pay for that on your own, it costs $10 of real money. And again, it's $6 a month. And you're getting $500,000 of that. And then you're getting, I'll be honest with you, Matt, all this stuff that I could not even understand what they were talking about. Because the verbiage in that thing, to even understand what they're offering for the $6 per month, you have to be dyed-in-the-wool GTA Online player.
and there's a lot of those.
Apparently there are, because it's making money hand over fist off GTA Online. I should also add that people have brought to my attention that if you have not played Grand Theft Auto Online for a long time, that you will be shocked at what it's become. And I am guilty. I have not played GTA Online in forever. And so what I've heard is that there's actual like campaign style content now in GTA Online. When was the last time you checked it out?
Years and years ago. Probably around the time the Heist DLC came out. Which I don't even remember when that was. Must have been 2015, 2016. I saw they did like story-driven stuff like a few months ago, last year or sometime. I don't care.
Yeah.
I did play for a while. I probably put like 100 hours into GTA Online and all told, and I enjoyed.
100 hours! Wow.
Yeah, I enjoy. Not at the time it launched, but when Heist came out, my online group, which was still together at the time, like played it a lot. We did all the heists, and we did all the stuff, and played for a long time, and did the multiplayer crap, which none of us liked, but we wanted to do it so we could buy stuff. We bought the planes and all this, So we did play a pretty extensive amount, and then just sort of stopped. Because we felt
Why did you stop?
We felt like we just sort of seen everything. We didn't want to keep doing the heists over and over again. And we'd done tons of the random open world stuff. It was sort of time to move on.
So you had done the same heist multiple times over and over again?
Yeah, because there were like, what? There were like 3 of them or something? 3 or 4?
I don't even remember. It's been so long.
We did all of them until we got all the achievements from them, and that was it. That wasn't easy. Like, there was some really dumb achievements in that.
So ultimately, though, in a nutshell, there just wasn't enough content to keep you engaged.
No.
Yeah. Why do you think, what does this tell you? So does it seem insane to you that Rockstar would just now launch this subscription service to GTA Online? And why would it wait until now to do this?
Well, it kind of comes hand in hand with the next-gen upgrade. So that makes some sense. And I think some of this...
Also, by the way, GTA Online is free if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber right now.
And I think this is also somewhat future-proofing what they're going to do with 6. 6 is obviously going to have some kind of massive online component. Or it's going to come hand in hand with a big upgrade to GTA Online in general. Like, they're going to add a bunch of 6-style content to online when 6 comes out.
Does this tell you that it's probably going to be the same thing in Grand Theft Auto 6?
I would think so. I would expect that what will happen with GTA Online when GTA 6 hits is GTA Online is just going to get a bunch of more locations. It's just not going to just be San Andreas anymore.
You can tell how old this footage is because I have a beard. My character has a beard. When I created my character, I created him to look like me, and I haven't had a beard in like years. So that tells you how old this footage is. It's been sitting on the TriCaster all this time. Do you think that's a good idea? See, to me, I figured when Grand Theft Auto 6 launched that they would just wipe GTA Online and they'd launch a new GTA Online.
Not a chance.
You think that it's going to be the same thing?
I mean, they might revamp everything and like there might be a big upgrade with like the engine and everything, but I don't think they're going to wipe your progress or anything. No.
Really?
I think you're going to still have Los Santos and San Andreas available to you. You're just also going to be able to go to the places that GTA 6 has.
Because what we're seeing right now,
especially if Pactor's right.
Yeah. What we're seeing right now with Call of Duty Warzone is that they're screwed because they built it on the Modern Warfare engine. And that engine was not made to do what they need to do with it. Like they didn't build that engine to have 300 guns on each map. It can't. And so they are struggling to create map rotations in Call of Duty Warzone. Thus, why we wondered, why are they going to launch Warzone 2? That's why. Because they need to build a new engine and a new framework to build it on so that they can do the things that they need to do like other games as a service, ongoing Battle Royale shooters. So do you feel like they're going to adapt the existing GTA engine and make it work?
I mean, I don't know what they're doing internally with that, but I guarantee you that it is going to be a dovetail continuation of what GTA Online is. It's not going to be a restart.
Huh.
Not a chance in hell. Especially if they're doing this now. Like, you don't launch a new subscription service and then wipe it all out and start over again in a few years. This is definitely how they're moving forward with this. And I think you'll be able to play this. That's the trick, is I think you'll be able to play this on PS4 and on PS5, and on PS5 it's going to look amazing, but it's still going to run on PS4. I think they're going cross-platform, cross-generation, cross-everything with this thing. They want GTA Online to last basically forever. Like, they're trying to do this permanent platform thing that I think everybody should have been trying to do. But Rockstar seems to be thinking, further out than anybody else.
Do you think this ensures that once again we're going to get no single-player DLC for Grand Theft Auto 6?
I would guess that's a pretty good bet.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get any for Red Dead Redemption 2. So
yep.
That's just not where the money is. And I will always believe that the heists were cut out of the single-player campaign of GTA 5. Because GTA 5 is missing a middle act.
And Rockstar has taken so long. Like, I could believe that they're doing what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Where they're like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to have to build like this new tech to run GTA Online on PS5 and Xbox Series and whatever comes after that.
Port everything over, and we're building San Andreas again.
Like, they have the time to do that.
Sure.
I just wonder how
the time, the bandwidth, the money. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah.
If anyone can do it, they can.
And migrating all that data over is more difficult than you think, though.
Yeah, I mean, they have to recreate everything. I mean, even Microsoft couldn't get all that right with all the Avatar stuff people bought. Some of that stuff never
came through. Yeah.
But avatars don't make money the way GTA makes money.
It's true.
So.
I don't know. It almost feels like Rockstar might want to do what Activision's doing with Warzone, though. Is just bite the bullet and be like, yeah, it sucks that we're going to have to kind of wipe what we've done with GTA Online. But if you're setting yourself up for a future that you can build on forever, it kind of is worth it.
But I don't think they need to do that because they've already got that.
Yeah.
They just need to bring it over. It's all their own engine. Like, it's all their own tech. They could have built that from the ground up to be compatible with this.
That's true. That would take a lot of foresight, though, that every other studio hasn't really had.
But Rockstar thinks in decades.
It does. That's true.
And they know, especially because of how long it takes them to make the single-player stuff, they know that GTA Online is what is going to keep that company's doors open forever.
Forever. Would you rather have a new and better GTA Online or single-player DLC?
Oh, I'd rather have single-player DLC.
Me too.
But I'm not going to get that.
Yeah, me too.
And that's fine.
Is there any reason why they couldn't create legitimate single-player DLC inside GTA Online?
There's no reason, like, creatively or technically, no. But the reason is because if you go on and put it in GTA Online, because the last big update for GTA Online was solo, was narrative DLC. But if you put it in GTA Online, there's a chance those people might buy in-game currency or in-game objects, and that's more money for you. Mm-hmm. That's where it is. That's what it is. Like, there's no reason they couldn't do both or couldn't do either, but they're doing the one that makes more financial sense to them.
Yeah. Would you ever spend $6 a month on any ongoing game?
I mean, I have.
I mean, World of Warcraft, I guess.
SWTOR.
Did you?
I still subscribe to SWTOR.
I have never. I've only ever used like free trials for MMOs. I've never paid for an annual subscription for a game.
I subscribed to Secret World for a while.
Yeah.
A few of them. Not a lot. But
Would you do it now in 2022?
I still subscribe to SWTOR.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still play SWTOR semi-regularly. And I play it whenever the new stuff comes out for it. I poke around on it.
Okay.
And I like to support that game because I think it's good. I always like that game.
I have never done that, and I don't think I ever will.
I mean, I can't imagine what GTA would have to be to get me to do that for it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very different question. But if you did like a GTA Online equivalent where you're running around as a Jedi, I might think about it.
Right. Yeah, that changes things for sure.
Like, I'm going to be, in all honesty, like, GTA 6, obviously I'm curious and I want to know. But I'm going to be honest, like, the GTA setting, the GTA concept is not particularly interesting to me anymore. Like, I don't care about an open world crime game all that much anymore. I feel like we've done it.
Well, we have done it.
A lot.
5 times.
And not just with the GTAs.
Right.
But, like, and sure, I'm sure there'll be, like, interesting, compelling ideas they've got. They're going to use the scope of it. If what Pachter says is true, like, there's a lot of that. I'm just like, wow, I really want to see how that works.
Yeah.
Even if I don't think it's a particularly interesting story or a good game, I want to see how that all fits together.
I wouldn't be surprised either if that's the concept for GTA Online.
Yeah, exactly.
And if that is the case, I could also see them having to wipe it and start over.
Oh, no.
Really?
No.
Huh.
You just expand it. You don't wipe it. I mean, people have spent thousands and thousands of hours and hundreds of dollars getting all their stuff, and they're like, there's no reason to wipe all that. All you do is make it
there might be a reason that we don't know about.
There isn't. Except if you want to fleece everybody and piss everybody off. And they've taken long enough and their tech is compatible enough. I think they don't need to do that. And I think they may have learned a lesson from what happened with the definitive editions.
Yeah.
You want some continuity. You don't want to have people throw that stuff out. And if you are planning to do that, it doesn't make sense to launch a subscription service and then wipe everything a little bit later. Because you got to remember you are constantly taking money from these people.
Yeah.
The only other thing you could do is maybe the GTA Online that comes with GTA 6 is a separate service from the GTA Online that goes with GTA 5, and that doesn't make any sense. That's just confusing. So I think this is just going to become a platform, and everything that's in here for the most part is going to carry over. I mean, I do think you probably make a lot of it obsolete. Like maybe you can keep your jets and you keep your boats and all the stuff you have in GTA Online, but the new jets and the new boats, way better.
And probably way more expensive, too.
More expensive,
Yeah.
but maybe they can be customized more. Maybe you can tweak them more. Maybe they're more interesting. Maybe they're exclusive. Or the other thing is, like, we're not selling anything from GTA 5's GTA Online anymore. If you have it, it carries over.
But nothing new.
But you can't. Like, once this date passes, you can no longer buy those things from that. So if you're running around in a GTA 5 outfit or a GTA 5 car or a plane, you're a veteran. You're elite. Like, people, you can't get that anymore. Like, I'm running around in this thing you can't have because you jumped in at GTA 6, but I've been here since GTA 5 and I've got all this stuff.
Badge of honor.
So that there might be some of that to it too.
Interesting. Okay.
I would at least play with that idea if I were them, but like, I'm sure they're thinking about it way more than we are right now.
Does this news make you more or less excited for Grand Theft Auto 6?
Doesn't change anything.
Yeah, me either.
No.
I think I just, at this point, I've expected that we're not going to get single player DLC for GTA ever again.
No, I don't think Rockstar's ever going to do that.
I just accepted it and resigned myself to it. So
no.
Yeah.
It doesn't make financial sense anymore.
Yeah. Although it does for so many other publishers.
Yeah, but they don't have the scale that GTA does.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is GTA Online is so big and so consistent. You can there's no way they're not making more money just by kind of like getting residual, microtransactions off of putting out these big updates in comparison to charging $30 for that. Because you got to remember, like, even looking at like, the achievement percentage on some of these, and you look at the achievement percentage on some of the DLC stuff, and it's like, even games were like, 80%, have the achievements for the first half of the game stuff. And then you go play the DLC, and like, even the like finish the DLC tutorial level thing is like 1.8%. Mm-hmm. People just don't follow up on those things.
Yeah, I don't. I hardly ever play DLC.
Yeah. So like, I think it's definitely a more lucrative venture to throw it onto the platform everybody's still playing, and hope you get windfall from the microtransaction. That certainly seems to work. Like, you're still living on the back of that 10% of the population of your game that's like the whales, but that's all you need.
That is all you need. Yeah, they're making money hand over fist on GTA Online. So I don't begrudge Rockstar for sticking to it. Just selfishly, I would prefer the old model.
Sure, it doesn't do me any good. Yeah. But like, it's not going to happen.
Yep. Okay, so there you go. That's the latest on GTA 5 and, by proxy, GTA 6. I think we all kind of expected this. I don't think anyone's going to be too surprised that GTA Online is going to continue into the next Grand Theft Auto game. And my guess is there's still a couple more years that GTA 5 needs to keep that alive.
A number of years, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, all right.
Will we get GTA 6 or Elder Scrolls 6 first? That's the big showdown.
They should have that prop bet in Vegas.
Yeah.
I would bet on it. Which one would you bet on?
I think we'll see GTA 6 first.
That's a tough one.
Because Bethesda isn't even done with Starfield yet.
Right.
Whereas I think Rockstar is probably deep in the GTA 6 right now. I mean, but they're perfectionists, so who knows how long. Like, you can't go by normal dev cycles with Rockstar because they do what they need to do and have no limits.
Yeah.
But like, I have a feeling GTA 6 will beat Elder Scrolls by a year or so.
Yeah. Also, going back to the prior topic, I do think that, and I meant to say this and I didn't, I do think that Starfield is going to be the big litmus test for PlayStation. I think they're going to look and see what happens with Game Pass when Starfield comes out, this huge first-party exclusive from Bethesda that's not going to be playable on PlayStation or anywhere else. And
notable that it's a new IP, too.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of questions that Starfield might end up answering.
That'll answer. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo 7. We talked about the game 2 weeks ago on GameFace.
Something like that.
Somewhere around there. We both really liked it. Have you continued to play it at all?
A little bit.
Me too. Yeah, I've stuck with it a little bit. It's kind of turned into my replacement for Call of Duty a little bit. Like, while I'm waiting for the wife to get ready to go out to get dinner, like, I'll race a race or two.
Do a little race. And it's conducive to that, and not just because of how bite-sized racing games are in general, but like, it loads so fast. Like, man, if this thing had load times, I would probably play it way less. But the fact that you can just jump right into it, it's really good.
Yep. Well, not everybody likes it as much as we do.
No, apparently. I will say that at this point, I am real tired of the complete lack of racing AI. Like, Forza gives you a much better racing experience. GT's got a great driving experience. Like, it feels like driving the car. But I gotta say, you start in 8th place every time. I'm fighting your way up past these brainless like automatons, and whereas like Forza, you're fighting this AI, and like if you see that one red Honda, like that guy's gonna be a bitch. Like when you're gonna have trouble getting around that guy because you've had to pass him in like 3 other races, and like at least you're starting ahead of him. This like there's a lot more dynamic elements to that in Forza.
GT, they're just on a predetermined path.
Yeah, there's no personality to it. That's the one place I think they really haven't improved and should improve is the racing AI, because then you wouldn't have to start in 8th all the time because you'd actually have some competition.
And to be fair, that is the area that most racing game developers have focused on.
Yeah, it's certainly Forza's strength.
I mean, if you go back and
where are my drive avatars in GT?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's been like marketing like jargon for the last decade in racing games. Nothing like that's come out of like Polyphony.
Like I think GT7 like is if I'm going to compare driving like my car, my Audi in GT7 on an empty track to like driving it in Forza, I think GT does a better job of making me feel like I'm driving my car. But the racing just does not compare to Forza. Like agree. Forza is just such a more vibrant game when you are in a race.
I agree. Well, there's been big news this week about Gran Turismo 7 because a lot of people, as I said, are not as happy with the game as we are. In fact, a lot of people...
Yeah, so I noticed. Finally, I come around on GT being pretty good, and everybody gets mad about it.
Well, the biggest thing what pissed people off is that the servers went down for 24 hours, and because it's an always online game, people could not play the single player of it for 24 hours. And so they went to Metacritic, and they carpet bombed the user review score on Metacritic. The Metacritic user score is now 4.1. So which is
silly.
It's absurd. Like...
I mean, nobody pays attention to user score anyway, so whatever.
I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of people who look at user score more than critic score.
If they did, then there would be different sales numbers on things. Like people don't care. Like especially on things like that where it's like there's no limit to how many accounts you can make and how much you can review bomb things. Like user scores are pointless. Like the IMDb score on things. It's like no one believes that the vast majority of movie people think that Shawshank Redemption is the greatest film ever made. Like the Oscar poll where the stupid Flash scene won most cheerable moment in film. Like no one remembers that crap. Like that was people reviews like vote bombing. That's what happens there. So no, I don't believe if you look at like the review scores and you see that like it's got like a 90 and then the user scores say 4, like at the very least you're thinking like, okay, what happened?
No, for sure. That's the first thing you think. It sends up the red flag of like, okay, something happened
like
somewhere
a patch
along the
broke
way.
This thing or something, like whatever.
But I think it might give some people pause.
Yeah, I just don't think any of that matters much to sales in the mass audience anymore. I don't think people even know that's a thing for the most part.
I mean, these games live
on. It's enthusiasts arguing with enthusiasts at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Gran Turismo typically lives on for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
So that score is going to be there
by necessity
for a long time.
Yeah, but it can rehabilitate itself.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like,
and I'll say again, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of stuff that has 2, Captain Marvel has something like a 1.5 or something on user scores, and it made $1 billion. Nobody gives a shit what the internet trolls think.
Well, people went there because of the 24 hours outage, which is crazy to me. It's like, come on, man.
Like if that's your DRM, you got to make sure it works.
Yeah.
And they dropped the rewards for a lot of the races.
Well, so here's the thing. People went and carpet bombed the review scores for the game because they were angry about the always online thing for single player.
Yeah, I mean, campaign. I think a more constructive way to do that would be to email them, but okay.
Right, but
you're going to get the same response, nothing.
Yeah, here's the irony. They made all these changes, and that was not one of them. So I'm sure at first they're like, oh, look at all these changes that Polyphony's making. What our carpet bombing the review scores worked. But then they look at what actually changed in the game. They did not change the thing that people were so pissed off about. It is still an always online game, whether you're playing online against others or you're playing single player.
Yeah, they're never going to change that. That seems to be very inherent to how they think the game should work. I don't know why, but I don't think you're changing their mind on that one.
Yeah, I don't think you are either.
Their response to that is to make sure that it never goes down like that again.
Right.
That's all.
Yep. But they did change a ton of stuff. And I would argue, like, I don't really care about the always online thing. Do you?
No.
Like, so what? I can't play a game for a day. Who cares?
I mean, I care if it goes down, you can't play like it. And people are trying to keep their daily streaks and things. I get that. And like,
oh, is that part of the game?
I think there is some kind of thing where like you log in every day and do your daily 24-mile drive, or daily marathon or whatever. I think there's like a streak for that or something. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff
that
like
I
that
could
in
understand
there.
a little
so
more.
like I think there was some consternation over that, and like there was also people angry that like they've made a change where like the races, a lot of the high level races gave you way less money after than they did at launch, and no one really and like some people were like, oh, they changed it so that progression would slow down in the late game, but they changed it after the reviews were already out, so they couldn't get dinged for it. I don't know if that's true. It's kind of conspiratorial thinking, but like I can understand being upset about that. And now they reversed a lot of that. They gave everybody $1 million.
They gave everyone $1 million in-game credits.
I did not know that there was a limit to how many credits you can hold.
Well, you know why they
upped
do
that. Well,
They-
so you have to buy the microtransaction.
Well,
currency.
so there's two sides. So one side would say they do that to force people to buy the cars with real money. But then the other side of that is if there's a glitch that people discover early on where they can just get like 5 million credits, limiting the max amount of money that anyone can have at a time keeps that glitch from breaking the game's economy.
Yeah, but there is no economy. Like, no, it's not. People aren't trading money back and forth.
Well, that's the problem. Well, there is an economy though, but
it's only in your game. If I want to break that, that's my decision.
Well, it's trying to keep people from paying to win, essentially, because you go and race online and you are able to afford this whole livery of like 5 million credit cars or whatever, and everybody else is like grinding to get their first 5 million credit car. So there's
well, you know that the solution to that actually is you don't allow people to buy currency,
right.
But
that's
you're not
never
going to
happen.
because that's where the money
Matt,
comes
that's
from.
crazy talk. That's
But I think it was
never
what was
gonna
like 20 million limit, and now it's 100 million or something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah. So they ditched it. But here's the other thing: is that feature, the max amount in your purse, has been around since GT5, and people just now have really started to get really pissed off about it, and so they changed it for the first time since GT5. Some of the other stuff that they're changing. They're increasing the rewards and events in the latter half of the World Cup circuits by 100%. That shows you how off you were originally when you have to bump it by 100%.
Well, they dropped it. Like after launch, they dropped the reward amounts for those races and they bumped them back up.
Yeah, now they're up. They're bumping them back 100%. Yeah. That's insane.
Which implies that they cut them by 50, which is like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why would
you do that?
You dicks? What do you do? Like, why?
It makes no sense.
Why don't make balanced decisions based on the top 2% of your player base?
Well, they're the whales, right?
Yeah, like don't penalize everybody else because of that. You know, like it's really dumb way to go about that.
Yep. They added high rewards for clearing the circuit experience and all gold and bronze results. They increased the rewards in online races. They included a total of 8 new 1-hour endurance race events to the missions. They will also have higher reward settings. They increased the upper limit of non-paid credits and player wallets. We talked about that already. They increased the quantity of used and legend cars on offer at any given time. Why would you ever limit that?
I don't know.
Why aren't all the cars available all the time?
I don't know.
There's no harm in that. I cannot
I'm sure it's some kind of microtransaction thing, but I don't know enough about the intricacies of that with that game to know why.
Yep. Beyond that, there's going to be more World Circuit events added, full-on endurance events, including 24-hour races, like the 24 Hours of Le Mans, online time trials with proper payouts, and players will be able to sell their cars.
Finally.
Which was like the thing that I talked about when we talked about it on GameFace the first time. I'm like, why can't I sell my effing cars?
I think they wanted it to be like you were collecting them all.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, fill out the entry.
Yeah.
And let me get rid of the car if I don't want to have 14 French hot hatches laying around.
Because you're right. There are some cars, there's tons that are very similar. I don't need every minute variant of each one of those cars.
Almost every certain kind of car, I'm going to have a favorite that I keep and the others I don't care about.
Right. I need like 2 from each type, basically.
Yeah, I need enough to fulfill requirements. Usually I need like a Japanese-made one, a European-made one, an American-made one. I need one with front wheel, one with rear wheel, one with all wheel, and that's about it. Like, just to cover my bases on whatever requirements I have for the races I'm trying to enter.
That completely changes the economy of the game, playing by yourself. Being able to sell your cars now.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to earn all the credits
You're not
to buy
stuck
every
grinding
car.
on stuff.
Yeah. And then, as I said, the always online single player, no change at all. They have not changed that at all.
That, I imagine, is probably a more involved fix if they intend to do that, but there's part of me that just feels they're not going to
I don't think they will either.
change that.
You still have to basically pay real money for the most expensive cars in the game. Because you're
just never going to get there.
You're just never going to grind. Like, I think I saw one person online said that to grind for a car that was like 1 million credits, they had to play the same race for 6 hours. Like, who's going to do that? Like, they know they're not going to do that. So they're basically saying, no, you're going to pay money for these cars. It's absurd.
Yeah, because at a certain point, it's like, okay, is 6 hours what's worth more, 6 hours of your time or $2 for a car?
Right. Yeah. Like, even people who work for minimum wage, it's not worth their time. It's crazy. I mean, is this the first real scummy use of microtransactions by PlayStation in a first-party game? Because they've been great.
I mean, there's been some questionable stuff in MLB The Show.
Oh, really?
Times, but no one plays that enough for it to have been news the way this was. But like this is the most brazen, I would say. Certainly for a major franchise, like especially because it's doubly annoying to me aesthetically because we complain about this the comparison between this and Forza, but like. They finally kind of nailed the car culture appreciation thing. There's that great opening movie with the history of motoring and all this stuff. And like it kind of really gets the personality of that down and like kind of hanging out in the cafe. And like they finally kind of embraced a little bit of personality, a little bit of like love for the car scene. And then they just throw all this mobile game shit in it. And it's like... it's what a weird, and like you start to wonder, like, did they lean that way not because they realized that they needed to kind of compete with Forza on that sort of psychological and emotional level, but because they thought that might counterbalance the sheer mercenary nature of how they were implementing the microtransactions. And I could kind of flip a coin on that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one that is.
I kind of wonder if they're not just greasing the wheels for this big barrage of games as a service stuff that it's going to be launching. Like,
I would definitely imagine if they have that plan for like, was it 10?
Yeah, 10 games in 4 years.
There's got to be a little canary in the coal mine with this, right?
Yeah, where they got to start figuring it out.
Hell, for all we know,
how far can you push?
For all we know, they might count this as one of the 10.
That's true. But you're right, though. They got to figure out, like, what does our audience think about this? We know what other audiences think.
No, sir. I didn't like it.
Exactly.
Is the answer to that.
I don't like it. They learned that lesson real quick. So they did dial back some of this stuff, and I think
especially
that's
in the
good.
way, like, you're charging $70 for this shit.
I know.
Dude. Come on. Like,
I know.
You're not giving value for that. Like,
I know.
it's just ridiculous. Like $70 needs to buy you more than access to the software.
Yeah.
Like, they need to learn that
it's not
hard
just a
and
key.
fast.
Like,
no.
It's more than that. It's way more than that.
You need
for most
the experience to reflect the money that was paid. If you want to, like, gouge, like, late game whales for, like, microtransactions and once they've finished all the main content and like gone through all the cafe stuff, like if you want to like have a like an MMO endgame, you want to make the raids real hard and you got to do the raid 14 times to get the rare gear or whatever equivalent that is. If you want to get the Zondas or whatever in this game, like fine. But you can't penalize people that early. You can't have people that are just trying to get like the latest Accord to fill like menu number 12 feeling like they can't get anywhere because they have to grind so hard. That doesn't make any sense. That's not fun.
The other thing, too, is that Jim Ryan just said to games industry that they have this model of packaged goods where they create a package and they sell it for $60 or $70 and they want their customers to be satisfied with that $60 or $70 for the game.
Right, but not on this one, apparently.
Right, that's what I'm saying, though.
Like, imagine if like, you had to pay an extra $5 to get the Blades of Chaos in God of War.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, so it's like, look, if that's your business model,
grind
stick
the poison labyrinth for 14 hours to get them. Like, that's your choice.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. Like, so look, if you want to stick to this, like, you're going to spend $60, we're going to give you $60 worth of stuff, then you better effing do it. Because if you start backing out on that, you're screwed. So it'll be interesting to see how all this stuff shakes out. It's probably good that it's happening with Gran Turismo 7 versus something like a God of War.
Yeah, and there's a point where, haven't we been around and around on this already enough? Yeah. Like, can you learn something from other people's failures?
It's like, how do our customers feel about it? We know what Xbox's customers feel about it, and Nintendo's
Pro tip,
customers...
your customers are all the same fucking people.
Yep.
For the most part.
PlayStation doesn't believe that, right?
Because
their customers would not be interested in Game Pass. They want to pay $60 for the games. They don't want to subscribe to some service. Like
they want a boutique experience where they pay extra money for things that everybody else gets for free.
Exactly.
Here's a $500 VR headset.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Vincent is asking, do you think Gran Turismo 7 shows up in the PlayStation Plus library in June when this all launches?
Probably not.
No, it's too early. Because I just spent $70 for this damn thing. If it shows up for free in June, I'll be pissed.
Might show up for $50 though.
Maybe.
I could see a plus
I'd
discount.
be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Later. Like, it's a few months later, I can deal with that. But free? Hell no. And that's the thing. Like, Sony, it's not just that easy to flip the switch and become Game Pass. Like, you have to find almost like a dead period where first party wise, you haven't released anything for a little while. Otherwise, it's very awkward. So there's so much that goes into this stuff. It's like a labyrinth that it's very difficult to untangle at times. And look, I do want to give credit to PlayStation. Up until this point, it has done an amazing job with rejecting the scummiest parts of microtransactions. Like, it has been the gold standard for this stuff up until now. And I hope that this just isn't a signal that things are changing, although I have a sinking feeling that it is.
Maybe. I mean, I will say that, this does seem to be the game in their stable that is like the most conducive to this model.
Yeah.
It makes, if you're going to do any of Sony's first party juggernauts and try to do this with it, GTA is probably the easiest one to implement in that way. Because like there's an element of that would make it feel natural. Mm-hmm. And Forza does much the same thing in a lot of ways. The trick is, at no point when I've ever played Forza or Forza Horizon have I ever felt like I was being cheated by not spending into the online marketplace.
Ever.
Like they are so generous with everything in general. And like if you really want to boost yourself, yeah, you can buy some extra stuff if you want to, or buy the car packs or whatever you want. But like in general, I have always felt that Forza is very happy to just sort of throw stuff at you whenever you want. Even this game, like they do the equivalent of the wheel spins and stuff, but like they don't throw enough cool shit at you.
No,
they really don't.
Like, you finish a race in Forza, it's like, wham, 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 wham. Here's all this stuff. And after a race in this, you're like, did I get anything?
No. And it's sort of like,
probably not.
You didn't get anything. And like, you got like 5,000
Two more
credits.
Races, yeah. If you've got 5,000 credits,
you
two
just
more
do that
races,
100
you'll
more
get
times,
a car.
you'll get that car you want. Like
exactly. Yep. But at the same time, like, I don't want to slag the game that much. I like it, and I continue to play it. So I do hope that they'll continue to make changes in this direction.
I will say that, like, I do like it, but it would be real easy to just leave it behind if they get too scummy about it.
Agreed. Yep. And I do hope the fans stop doing this dumb crap. Like, 6 years from now, when someone goes to check out like Gran Turismo 7, they're going to be like, a 4.1. Oh, what happened?
Well, also that far from now that the game's going to be like $10 and it won't matter.
Probably.
Like that's an impulse buy at that point. I'm not worried. Reviews don't matter.
Yeah.
They really don't.
You don't think reviews matter at all?
No.
You don't think that 9.7 for Elden Ring made a difference?
No, I think word of mouth was way more important.
Really? I don't know. A lot of the word of mouth was like, F this game.
You tell me if any of the... I mean, there's no way to really do this, but in my imaginary poll magic, I would want to go poll everyone who, for them, it was their first FromSoft game, and find out if they even know what the Metacritic is. I bet you they don't. All they know is that their friends that play these games said that this is the one to try.
Yeah.
That's where that comes
possible.
from. No one cares about reviews of things. They go do whatever they want. The review, especially the user score of things, like that's just for the people who like kind of have fallen into that bubble trap.
I think there's lots of otaku that will say, I believe user scores more than critics.
Well, they are stupid.
And I think part of that, too, is if they're pissed off that they're not the critic.
User scores are some of the most easily manipulated things online. I mean, if you're dealing with a service that is like very like Steam, you can't really manipulate Steam reviews anymore because they made it one per account, and accounts have to have a backup of it. Yeah. But like Metacritic, you can just make as many accounts and review bomb that as much as you want. It's why you've got like you see that with like Marvel stuff gets review bombed all the time.
And they're not going to stop it because a big metric for digital properties is how many registered users have we added, and that's
it's not in their best interest.
It actually is the biggest metric for a digital company is how many new registered users do you have for this quarter. And if you have a bad quarter where you don't have a bunch of registered users, your stock tanks.
Yeah, and it goes the other way. There's review bombing for like unrealistically high. So like, go look at the user score for Alita Battle Angel. That movie is not that good.
I liked that movie though.
I liked it okay, but it was not a 90.
No, definitely not.
The user score was in the 9.0 range last time I looked.
That actually backs
was a while
up
ago,
your
though.
Contention that reviews don't matter because that movie did not do well financially, if I remember correctly.
Well, actually, I mean, yeah, but also the positive review bombing of that movie happened long after it was out of theaters because it was the basically the Comicsgate and misogyny people decided to push that as a better female-led movie than Captain Marvel because they hated Brie Larson.
Oh.
So they review bombed Captain Marvel.
They hate Brie Larson?
Brie Larson said that there should be more. That the movie critics shouldn't just be white men, and that is apparently blasphemy.
Okay, people are weird. Anyway,
but yeah, user reviews are garbage, and you should take a grain of salt with your professional reviews, and for the most part, you should listen to yourself and people you know whose opinions you trust.
Like us.
You don't know us. But don't listen to me.
Shut up, Matt.
Okay. We don't give number scores though, which is significant.
That is true. Yep. And even when we do our game evals, the number scores don't matter because people get their own number scores. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and even if we did, we'd probably get translated into the wrong numbers when we got to Metacritic.
Exactly. Why we're not on Metacritic. All right, let's move on to our last topic of today's show. It's been a fun show. It's moved along quickly. I can't believe we're at the last topic. We're going to discuss a brand new game that was announced this week, probably the biggest game announcement of the week, and one that I think Matt probably was pretty excited about, and that is Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. It is an asymmetrical 4v1 multiplayer game set in the Ghostbusters universe.
And that's where you lost my excitement.
Really?
I don't want to play a multiplayer game. I want to play a game.
Well, it's cooperative for the most part.
Yeah, but the asymmetrical stuff has never really worked. As much as I like the idea, I mean, I was just as on board with how cool Evolve looked too, and that sucked. So I very skeptically eye any of these asymmetrical 4v1 things. They rarely seem to work too well.
So this is coming from the same developer that created Friday the 13th, the game.
That's also an issue.
and Predator Hunting Grounds.
Also an issue.
Yeah, neither of those games were great.
I didn't think that worked out too well. Yeah, same idea.
Friday the 13th, I thought had a great premise. It was all the execution.
Yeah,
and
same
then
with Predator.
They had weird licensing issues with it and all this.
I don't see anything different happening here, frankly.
Really?
No.
Do you know how this game works?
Not especially.
It's way beyond like Friday the 13th. Like they have really evolved.
Well, Friday the 13th partly got screwed because the licensing was even weirder there.
Yeah.
Predator, I think you're held back by the license, even if you have no problems with the licensor.
Yeah.
I mean, at least this looks like they're delving into things a little more. Like this already looks like it has more meat on its sort of presentational bones than Predator ever did.
Yeah. The gameplay though, the design of the game is way more in depth than anything that they've done before. First of all, you play as a customizable Ghostbuster. It does not include the real actors from the film, although it does have the one guy they show at the open. He's not really the star, but he does.
Who's the one guy?
Well, I can jump back. I don't know what his name is. It's the black guy. Winston, yeah. He's in the game, and he does some voiceover for it, but like Rick Moranis and Dan Aykroyd, all those
Rick
guys.
Moranis has been retired for 20-some years.
Is he really retired? Like, he doesn't do anything anymore?
He hasn't done anything except voices for a couple Disney movies since, like, the late 90s.
Oh, really? I think you actually mentioned that before. I'd forgotten it, though.
Yeah, his wife died of liver cancer or something, and so he stopped acting to raise their kids. And he just
never came back.
He never felt the need to come back.
Huh.
He made tons of money off Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Did he?
Like, he was set for life after that franchise. So,
okay.
And he just, like he said, he did an interview a few years ago where he just said, like, yeah, I just never found out there are opportunities for him to come back or go do stuff with it. But he's like, you know what? I just never missed it. And so he didn't, like, more power to him. Like,
well,
he went back. He stepped back and did the right thing and raised his family and just seems to be doing really well. So great for Rick Moranis.
Well, he's not in this game, and neither are any of the other guys.
It's a little weird. I feel like you could get Aykroyd.
You would think.
Aykroyd loves doing stuff with Ghostbusters, and there's even the shots there where it's in Ray's bookstore.
Yeah, all the settings are here, but the people that they had to pay for are not.
I mean, obviously, you don't want to bother with Bill Murray.
Yeah,
and he's too difficult.
Yep.
And Rick and Egon's dead, so
yeah.
Harold Ramis is dead.
You create your own character. It is 4v1 with one player plays at the ghost, and if you are the ghost, the objective is to haunt the entire map. If you play as one of the Ghostbusters, you're armed with a proton pack, a PKE meter, and a ghost trap. But if you lay a ghost trap down, you have to go back and pick it up when you're done using it. Otherwise, you won't have it when you need it later. You don't have like an unlimited supply of the traps. The ghost can haunt different objects that will send the PKE meter off, but you can use that as a red herring. So if you're the ghost, you can basically haunt a chair in a room, and that will send off the PKE meter, which will send the Ghostbusters into a room that you're not actually in. So there's a little bit of strategy there. As the Ghostbusters, you must destroy 3 different rifts with the proton pack that the ghost must try to protect. So the rifts allow the ghost to kind of refill his haunt ability. So it's a finite resource that you use to haunt things, to throw people off the trail, but you will run out. And you need these rifts to basically recharge the ghost's abilities. And as the Ghostbusters, you want to destroy those so the ghost can't recharge. The ghost can respawn also after you've captured him, if all the rifts aren't destroyed. So a big objective in this game in general, if you're the Ghostbusters, is to destroy the rifts. The ghost wins by scaring away all the NPCs on the map. So there's tons of NPCs walking around, and you try to scare them. However, as a Ghostbuster, if you find them and they've been scared by the ghost, you can calm them down, which I think is kind of cool, and I think a nod to the actual film. Because if you remember, there was always scenes where people were freaked out, the Ghostbusters show up, and they console them. Like, I feel like that's a pretty important part of the Ghostbusters aesthetic. As the ghost, you can use techniques like sliming or attacking or moving objects to scare the different NPCs in the game. But as I said, every action costs ectoplasm points, which you can refill. First, you look for rifts to destroy your NPCs to calm down. The ghost can also slime players, send out minions, or disable the proton packs of the Ghostbusters. They said it's intentionally hard to aim the proton pack to give the ghost a chance. You can also ping your teammates to let them know where the ghost is. Very simple, like D-pad commands. And then you basically want to haunt as many objects as you can to make it as hard as possible to find you as the ghost. Because the more things you haunt, the more the PKE meters don't help the Ghostbusters, and the more it helps you ultimately. So knowing all that, do you feel any better about it now?
I mean, I like the mechanics they're displaying, but like it's the multiplayer. It's like the balance of it and how that's going to work, and it feels like it's probably just going to be really irritating to play as the ghost because you're just going to get ganged up on by 4 Ghostbusters, and that'll be that.
Now, IGN did an exclusive preview of this, and actually we're using their footage here, and we thank them in the footage for allowing us to use it. But they said that they won as the ghost a lot, and they were surprised by that.
Yeah, I have also learned to never judge any of these games by press events.
Yeah.
That stuff does not survive contact with the public.
Yeah, a lot of times it doesn't.
And I can see this being just a thing as like I play a couple days and never want to touch it again.
Really? You don't think there's like depth there where you feel like you're getting better and you start to understand the nuance of it more?
There might be, but I don't have any interest in multiplayer stuff. I don't care about doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, playing the same matches over and over and over and over again. That's not interesting to me. I want to progress through something. I want to get some narrative out of it. It's just multiplayer match stuff is just the same shit over and over again, and I don't care about it. I get nothing out of that.
So you would prefer if it was just a single player game?
Yep. I would much rather be another like the one they did before with the old cat. It was basically Ghostbusters 3. Yeah, I would absolutely play that over this in a heartbeat. This is a thing I will wait and. Like if you get codes for it, I'd play it. If it gets real cheap one day, I'll play it. But like, no, I'll wait and see if anybody.
I'm surprised to hear this because you're a big Ghostbusters fan.
I'm a big Ghostbusters fan, but I don't like.
You don't like Ghostbusters enough to offset your hate for multiplayer.
Not really. I mean, it's not a hate. I just don't get anything out of it. Like this. To me, I like Ghostbusters because of the setting and the lore and the characters and stuff, and there's nothing to that when it's just a bunch of created characters running around throwing proton packs at a nondescript ghost that isn't even from the movies.
I mean, I think the ghost will eventually be from the films, though.
Well, I mean, Slimer's in there, but overall, like, the ghosts look very generic. Have you used stuff from, like, maybe the animated
I mean,
series
that's going to be the DLC.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's not really that much in the way of named ghosts in the films. Like
there aren't many. You're right.
There's just Gozer and Vigo and the Scolari brothers and Slimer.
That's a good point. There aren't a lot of very specific ghosts.
It's the cartoon where you got the real ghosts.
Yeah.
You got Samhain and the Sandman and the Boogeyman and all that stuff. That kind of thing. But Killer Watt. But a lot of those are like outside the realm of just a ghost haunting a room. It wouldn't make a lot of sense if those characters were doing that.
Vincent says it'll have bots in a story mode.
I also don't trust bots in this kind of game.
Actually, IGN said in its report that it did play with one of the bots, like one of the team members they had was a bot. It wasn't a human player, which is weird because it looked like Ilphonic had set it up with IGN. You'd think they'd have a full
you think you get
roster
a
of humans there to play, but they ended up playing with a bot, and they said it worked pretty well, which is encouraging, I guess. But obviously, ideally...
but again, you're talking about like a press event that's set up versus like, remember when you tried to play with bots and aliens?
Right.
Fireteam, whatever it was?
Yeah.
You couldn't get anywhere.
Yep.
That'll probably get you through the introductory level, but as soon as you start doing stuff where you need to like actually work on things, like you're going to need decent people to play with. And and that becomes a scheduling thing, and it becomes a thing, I got to play this tonight because everybody agreed to play it. I just like, no, it's not how my gaming life works right now. I don't want to do that.
I'm excited by this game. I do like multiplayer games, and I do love Ghostbusters. I grew up with it, and I love the franchise. It's never been ruined for me, but I haven't watched the last two most recent ones, so maybe that's why it hasn't been ruined yet for me. So I love the IP. I liked the idea behind Friday the 13th. The execution was poor, which does make me nervous about this game because it's the same developer. You would hope that they had learned something from the other projects that they had worked on, but Predator Hunting Grounds wasn't much better than Friday the 13th, so I'm not going to put a whole lot of faith in that. But one thing I will say is, like, this has Game Pass written all over it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, with these games, you want to build a big audience so that you can make money off of your DLC and your microtransactions.
Yeah, putting this on Game Pass would definitely be one of the only ways to get me to play it organically.
And I think a lot of people might feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if this is a day and date Game Pass game, which I think would be the smartest thing that they could do. They'll get paid a lot of money by Microsoft. It'll give the ecosystem of the game a fighting chance. I don't even know if like younger people care about Ghostbusters. I know there are movies that are still coming out, but they haven't been great.
Afterlife was good.
I mean, financially, did they do well?
Yeah, Afterlife did okay.
Did they?
Yeah.
I didn't even know. So that's encouraging.
I think the real problem with Ghostbusters is that there was, they kind of, there hasn't been a media presence beyond the occasional movies. Whereas like you have things like, if you want to keep stuff relevant to the kids these days, you need to constantly put cartoons out. You need to have constant like kind of content.
That makes sense.
And Ghostbusters hasn't really done that. It couldn't do that for long. It was not a relevant franchise for a long time.
Yeah. It is pretty crazy how they revived the IP.
Yeah, I mean, it periodically would come back. They had the Ghostbusters, the Extreme Ghostbusters in the late 90s, and they had, the Ghostbusters game they did where they brought everybody back, and that was pretty solid. And then, every once in a while. But it is funny, like, where people talk about how it's, such a revered thing, where it's like, it really isn't. It really, the people that love it, but, like, it's not like it's some kind of immaculate thing, because Ghostbuster 2 already sucked. So, like, it's not like it was it wasn't like, you had the Holy Trilogy with Star Wars, or like, Raiders of, the Indiana Jones, where it's like, oh my God, the fourth one suddenly sucked. It's like, Ghostbusters has always been an up and down thing.
Yeah, I don't hear my nieces and nephews talk about Ghostbusters.
No.
Put it to you that way.
Also, there's an element of like Ghostbusters, the first one especially, which I don't think anyone would disagree that the first Ghostbusters is the best one. That's a legitimate horror film in places.
It is, yeah.
And so it's especially in today's soft youth, it's a hard, like I saw that when I was like 8.
Yeah.
And like, I loved it, and then I loved the cartoon even more. Like to me, Ghostbusters is the first movie and the real Ghostbusters.
Veritas brings up an interesting point. He says Stranger Things is kind of like Ghostbusters. Yeah,
well, it's not a coincidence they put the Stranger Things kid in the new Ghostbusters movie.
Right.
And it worked, more or less.
Yep.
So, yeah. Stranger Things, although, we can get into that when Stranger Things Season 4 comes out.
In May, right?
Something like
May
that, yeah.
Something. Yeah. Hopefully it's better than the last one. Which I liked, but it still was a drop-off, I thought.
I think the third season, like, I get why people who were into the boring bullshit of the first two thought 3 was a downgrade, because it didn't have as much of that. But I thought the first one was fine. Second one was just the most boring garbage I had ever seen. I did not care about anything that happened in season 2. And until the very end, when everybody got back together, and like you finally had all the character dynamics back in place, and I'm like, yes, this is what the whole season should have been, dumbasses.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have to spend a second season, just like Ghostbusters 2. They spend the whole movie getting the team back together. You already got the team. That's what the first movie's for.
Right.
You don't need to do that now. Like Stranger Things.
As soon
as you see the weird monster thing dead in the field in Stranger Things season 2, everybody who a year ago like stopped an interdimensional invasion should have gotten back together. Back, we found a weird monster thing in the field over where we fucking stopped the invasion. How is no one fucking calling each other? So the third season finally figured out that what we really want to do is have these characters interact with each other. And like, yes, it didn't. But the real problem with Stranger Things is we do not know anything more about the monsters or the other dimension, the Upside Down, than we did in the 3rd episode of season 1.
No, you're right.
They have never developed that any further.
Haven't, yeah.
And if they don't do that in season 4, like, why are you even doing? It should just be a teen drama at this point.
I mean, that's what it is.
It is, like, yeah.
But I watch.
But if you're not going to do the supernatural shit, that's what that show's going to end up being like in season 3.
Yeah.
Like,
I watched the show for the nostalgia. So when I rank the seasons, it's like which one made my heart sing the most and took me back to when I was like a little kid in the 80s, basically. That's how I look at them. Like, I like the plot and I follow the plot, but it's not the sole reason why I watch the show.
Yeah, well, the nostalgia for me doesn't work tremendously well in some places, partly because the guys who make that show were not alive when that was happening.
Yeah.
The nostalgia in season 3 worked more or less for me because there were malls. Like, that did actually cover a lot of the things I did when I was growing up in that realm. Like, all that stuff like worked. My problem is, like, there's some stuff that is, like, sort of, like, the nostalgic idea of what 80s were and not, like, what the 80s
really
actually were. Like, especially in season... So, again, okay, we want to talk about Ghostbusters fan. This is the second season where they dress as the Ghostbusters for, like, Halloween, right? Okay. No one dressed as the fucking Ghostbusters for Halloween that year in 1984.
I don't remember.
That's cosplay. No one. If they did, it was one of those stupid costumes where you put the plastic mask and the apron on.
Yeah.
No one made proton pack. Also, they call them proton packs in that season. The word proton pack did not get canonized until the Ghostbusters cartoon series.
Really?
And they didn't call them proton packs until Ghostbusters 2.
Really?
They're never referred to as proton packs in the first Ghostbusters.
What do they call them?
Unlicensed nuclear accelerators on our backs.
Oh.
They are never referred to as that.
Interesting.
And so all the stuff about that, and the idea of like no one did that. Certainly not kids that age. There were people who like did real detailed like Star Wars costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
But like that was very unusual. Also,
Kiss. I had Kiss costumes.
Yeah, some of that. Music stuff was more likely, partly because you could go look at the album. Like it was hard to watch movies again. You know, like they didn't come out on VHS.
Yeah.
You had to go see them in the theater over and over. There were people who
usually
did
the drive-in.
Famously, there was this girl who made a really good Luke Skywalker pilot costume in 1977. By going and seeing the movie over and over again and sketching the pilot costumes as she saw them on the screen with a notepad. That's
well, because like the figurines back then.
Oh, they were too weird.
The costumes were just like these pieces of plastic.
Yeah,
basically.
they were often not based on anything except bad photos of things. Yeah. But it's just stuff like that where I'm like, okay, like look, if you want to go full nostalgia with it, okay, but you got to do it right.
Yeah,
that's not how anything. And also the thing where like they all went to school in the costumes and no one else had dressed up for Halloween. Bullshit.
That doesn't happen.
No, I mean, sure, some people didn't, but through all my grade school, middle school, high school, there was never a Halloween where no one dressed up.
No way.
There was never a Halloween where only dorks showed up in costume. No, there was always the popular girls always dressed as babies, or like it was all like
cats.
Because it meant they got to wear their pajamas to school.
Yeah,
you know,
they get to wear the cat ears.
and like, for sure. Yeah, and the guys would always dress as their favorite football players, or
because that's easy.
It was
put the jersey on and put the eye black on.
But it was always an element. The idea that like a bunch of like 11 and 12-year-olds wouldn't have costumes on the whole no. I mean, I know it's a joke, but it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so this just solidifies it. Matt and I will be doing an episode of Spoiled for the next season of Stranger Things. Stay tuned. That's going to be a good one.
Is that May? Did they say that?
It is May, yeah.
Okay.
I think they may split the seasons again, where they do like the first half and then the other half later. But yeah, it's supposed to come in May.
Well, in that case, we can supplement with a season of Is It Cake?
Yeah. Well, they just did a collaboration with Far Cry 6 for Stranger Things, which shows you how much Far Cry 6 is struggling, because we're still like 2 or 3 months away from the new Stranger Things, and they're already doing the collaboration now.
Although maybe originally Stranger Things was supposed to be out
that could
by now.
be. That's true.
That could be.
That's possible. So anyway, there you go. That's Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. It's coming to pretty much everything.
They should do a Stranger Things Is It Cake?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Uh-uh.
You know Is It Cake? It's the #1 show on Netflix.
No.
It's a show where they bake these cakes that look like really realistic other things that aren't cake, and the contestants have to guess if it's cake or not.
I've seen those cakes before.
Yeah, well, because that's where it comes from. It was a like a TikTok trend basically during the lockdown, and now Netflix made a show out of it. And it's their #1 show right now.
That shows you where we're at.
There's a turtle that you swear they're about to murder an animal.
Really?
Like it's so good.
Do they make sure the cake is like red on the inside?
No, it's green. It's green. I've seen people have done that before. That somebody made a really super crazy realistic newborn baby cake, and you cut its head open, and it's like filled with jam. It's just really
Justin
disturbing.
Horman. Have you never subscribed to Netflix ever? Wow. Never seen Stranger Things.
I mean, I don't think you're.
And he says
I don't think you really missed much.
He says he doesn't want to sub to Netflix just to watch it, and I would agree. You do not want to, but there's so much. If you've never had Netflix,
there's a lot to see on there.
Oh my gosh, man! There's so much to watch. Yeah, if you want a list, just hit me up on the site or on Twitter. I can give you a list of like literally 30 or 40 shows that you like must watch. Mm-hmm. And some of them have like 3 seasons.
Yeah, and actually, Andy T. Monahan brings up the real streaming show in May is Kenobi.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Big deal. I'm excited for that.
Kenobi.
In fact, I am to the point now where I think I am good.
I'm surprised
to subscribe to Disney Plus again because there's a lot now. Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't talk about Halo.
What about Halo? The show?
The TV show.
I haven't watched it. Did you?
I watched it's only 1 episode so far. I watched the first episode.
Well, what do you think? Actually, we're in Q&A now. So you guys can get your questions in the chat, and we'll just pretend that somebody asked Matt what he thinks of the first episode of Halo.
It's weird. It's like someone gave a local theater troupe $100 million to do a Halo show. Production. I mean, the quality of effects varies by the shot.
Really?
Like, sometimes it's a really good thing. Like sometimes it's like, wow, that looks like a bunch of Spartans fighting a bunch of elites, and it's great. And then like they'll drop a gun. It'll be an insert shot of the laser rifle hitting the ground, and a laser rifle looks like it was rendered on an Apple IIe or something. It was like there's a lot of variety in that. One of the main plot points is basically like it takes place early. And it's obviously a different continuity. It's not the same as the games. They're not sticking to that, but it takes place early. Like it's before Fall of Reach. There are other Spartans.
Oh.
Like Master Chief is leading a group of Spartans.
Okay.
And the colonies, the outer colonies that were at war with the UNSC before the Covenant invasion, they don't know the Covenant War is happening yet.
Oh.
So the pre-early thing is like, they're all, fuck the UNSC, and have you heard about Spartans? Spartans will kill 1,000 people before you even know. They're afraid of the Spartans and stuff. And then the Covenant attack, and Master Chief and the Spartan team drop in and ostensibly to save people, but everyone dies. So, like, they don't get there in time. So like, everyone but like one person survives, and that they go to take her back, and there's a thing where they're like, because he finds an artifact basically that is like brings back his memories, and like if you've read the books, they're kidnapped children. The Spartan 2s were kidnapped children by Halsey.
I don't think you even have to read the books to know that.
No, they've gone into that because there is actually I think a lot of Halo 5 in this, weirdly enough, because there's obviously going to be a hunt for the chief going on.
Right.
And but he remembers stuff. He's not even sure it's his memories, but she knows it's his memories, and they're like, oh, you gotta not let him do that. And like, oh, if the Spartan's going crazy, you gotta. And so he's flying back on the ship with the girl that survived, and she's all upset and stuff. And they're like, okay, well, she knows too much and won't like help us like with recruiting other rebels. So like, just put a kill order on her and tell Master Chief to kill her. And so the thing pops up to kill her, and he won't do it. And so they're like, oh, go murder this little girl. And Master Chief's like, and they're like, oh my god, he's gone rogue, nuke the ship, blow my. So now like they just want to kill Master Chief because he won't murder a child
that fast.
Yeah. And so like and then he escapes with the girl, and like they're presumably with the artifact gonna go find a Halo somewhere, I would imagine, because every time he picks up the artifact, the Halo theme plays. So I'm just like, I figure that's what that is.
He takes off the helmet in the first episode.
He does,
right?
and the weird thing about that is like he's just him.
Yeah,
it's just the actor.
Yeah.
It's like, was it Pablo Schreiber?
Yeah.
I think it's just him. Like he's not
white.
He's not like, he doesn't look weird. He's not like cyborg guys. He's just a guy. He's just like, which is fine. I mean, his performance is good. The weird thing is that when the helmet's off, he does talk a little faster, and so you can't hear you can't hear the helmetless dialogue coming out of the helmet. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know how like measured and precise Master Chief he does that when the helmet's on. When the helmet's off, he talks more like a normal person, and it's weird. There's a lot of shots that suddenly become first-person Spartan shots, and it's just really corny.
Gratuitously corny.
It's like, look, it was a first-person shooter. It's like there's no... Because like you can do POV shots, obviously, but like... These happen when there's no reason to do it. It's just to show you, like, hey, we know the game. Remember that game? Remember the game this is based on? Yeah. And they do use the sound effects, like the Covenant.
The real sound effects.
The Covenant guns make the same sounds. The shield makes this like that's all in there. Some of the Spartan action stuff looks really cool. It's cool to see them show up and fight the elites, and like suddenly it's really gory.
So it's M-rated.
Extremely gory. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like. People blowing up, like the headshots blowing, like there's like people getting their legs cut off and floundering around. Like, there's one headshot, there's one like execution style shot they do in one of the elites, when it cuts back to like the wide shot, you see just like crap goo like leaking out of the back of its head onto the ground.
Wow.
So yeah, there's no shortage of gore. It's an R-rated.
They don't pull
series.
any punches.
No, like way more than the game ever did. The main thing is like. It all feels a little weirdly rushed because they're clearly trying to get on with it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite... The tone is everywhere. It has no idea. And, like, the UNSC comes off looking like either fascists or morons, and maybe both. Because
Fascist morons.
Yeah, because...
Well, that's redundant,
kind of redundant, yeah. But, like... But they're just like... It's like, why are you so wrapped up in, like... I mean, I guess you can understand, like, the Spartans in this are portrayed as, like... They could probably single-handedly kill the Marines. Like all of them, the platoon, the squad of 5 Spartans would maybe be unbeatable for the rest of the military. They are very, very, very scary. And so if you're not, and they don't trust Halsey, and they think that they answer to her and not to the UNSC, and they're right. But like it's just sort of like they really want to get to this let's hunt the Master Chief thing really fast, and the problem is that was Halo 5, and nobody likes Halo 5. It was also the Bad Batch. It reminded me of the Bad Batch, the Star Wars animated show they did. Because they are sort of Spartanish.
Right.
They are like an elite ops team with big armor that are better and more skilled than the other clones. And then they do this thing that does not align with the sort of overall... imperialist structure and the orders given, and they think those orders are immoral, and so they say, I don't think we're going to do that, and they get hunted by the entire empire. So that seems to be kind of what's happening here.
Okay.
And it just feels a little like a retread. But I will say that first opening, the 18-minute opening sequence where the Spartans arrive and fight the elites is fucking great.
Wow. Okay.
The rest of it is kind of boring reverse shot conversations with people you don't care about.
Yeah, I have struggled to find anyone who likes it.
Yeah, I will say
on social media, everyone's just banging on it.
I think it's got maybe 3 episodes to find its feet, and that's it. And
I know they already signed a second season.
Yeah, but like I'm just saying, like people are going to abandon ship on this thing if they don't get to it in about 2 more episodes. I think.
I don't want to pay for Paramount Plus for just one show.
That's understandable. I mean, look, some of the Star Trek stuff's worth watching.
Yeah.
Picard is pretty good.
Paramount Plus is probably, of all the streaming services, no offense, I worked at that company for like 8 years, and I hate to slag
Paramount?
it, but yeah, Paramount is Viacom.
Yeah, it's Viacom, yeah. Peacock's worse.
Is it worse?
Peacock's dumb. Peacock has nothing.
Really?
Peacock has... actually, I guess Peacock has Bel Air. That's the only thing on there that I'd be interested in seeing. That's mainly because I know someone who's in it.
Bel Air. The fresh...
Yeah.
Wow.
Got in one little fight, and my mom got scared.
Okay, let's get to some questions.
That's where
Thank you for your review of Halo.
That's where he should have to present Best Actress next year, remote from Bel Air, because that's where they sent him after he got in one little fight.
It's so funny how that all... Anyway. I've already talked about that too much with my wife over the last 2 days. She loves all that celebrity stuff, so we've talked about it ad nauseum, and I am over it at this point. Mm-hmm. Still crazy, for sure.
I mean, certainly an Oscar moment.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I cannot believe there are people who think that was fake.
I know.
Like you are.
Still, some people think it's fake.
Oh, yeah, they're often crazy. Like, if it was fake, the camera work would have been better.
Yeah.
And... The squeaky cleanest leading man in Hollywood would not have spent 20 seconds being bleeped out because he was swearing at someone on stage.
There's a billion things that show you that is real.
No.
Anyway, anyone who believes that probably believes a bunch of other stupid shit. So,
true.
All right, let's go. Let's go to the chat. Liberal Hack, thank you for gifting subs to people. That's awesome, man. JM Rain, thank you, man, for gifting subs. You guys are the awesomest. Liberal Hack, Shane, any recent horror movie recommendations? I have not watched any horror movies for a while, actually. I did just watch Dune, and I was pleasantly surprised by Dune.
Yeah, Dune was really good.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
If
somebody finally figured it out.
Yeah.
They made a good Dune movie.
And I also just watched that movie that stars... oh, man.
Have there been any significant horror movies
There's
recently?
the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ugh,
But all my friends
really
watched it and
good.
said it was so terrible that I didn't even bother watching it. So, yeah, there haven't been any really, like, high-profile ones. And I watched that one that's set in, like, the 14th century, and it's got, it's got the guy who plays Darth Vader as what's his name?
Hayden Christensen?
No.
James Earl Jones.
No. It's not. He's actually not Darth Vader. He's...
Thanos?
I'm totally blanking on everybody's name right now.
Palpatine?
No. He's like a hunk, like all the women like him. Adam Driver.
Oh, Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Kylo Ren. And he stars in this like film that's set in like the 14th century.
The Last Duel.
Yeah, I just watched that. And that, people were like, oh, it's so brutal and gory. And I was like, really? I didn't really... I mean, there's a rape scene in there that's rough.
Yeah.
But the rest of it I didn't find to be...
No, I didn't think that was particularly good. I mean, I don't know. I didn't think that was all that great.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that good either.
I thought the fight...
It's one of those things where they retell the
good.
same part of the movie over and over
right,
again.
well, it's Rashomon, but it's like kind of Rashomon, but dumb. Because it's not like, Rashomon is like 3 different perspectives on the same events. Last Duel is like 2 idiots' perspective on an event, and then the woman tells you what actually happened.
Yeah.
And I do think that it leans on the rape a little too much as a plot point versus a...
Well, they make you watch it like 5 times.
Yeah, you see a lot of it.
It's like, I don't really need to see this again.
I do think the fight at the end is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. The duel.
Like,
the actual duel.
Yeah, the actual duel is really good.
Yeah.
But, like... And Affleck's really good. Like, Ben Affleck gets too much shit. Like, I think I don't think he can carry a movie, and like I understand, but I think he does a good job with almost everything he's given in almost. I think I hate the Snyder movies.
He was good in that movie.
I think he was
his part was small.
Yeah, but he was great when he was on. Like, it was.
I saw someone ask me like, what movies did I catch up on? Those are the 2 movies that I caught up on. Vincent says you can get a free month of Paramount Plus if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which I do. So there you go.
Get that. Watch the Star Trek. Strange New Worlds is coming up. So you should definitely take a look at that when Strange New Worlds hits, because that is the Enterprise crew before Kirk. It's the original Star Trek pilot.
Yeah. Here's a good one for Minority Games. Shane, you ever slap somebody?
I imagine you did.
Meaning like an open hand? I don't think I have ever slapped somebody.
I've never actually open hand slapped anybody. I've punched.
I have
people,
punched many people,
but
I'm not proud of it. But I have. I've been in lots of fist fights in my life. So, you run in the scene that I run in, and you're in a pit for 5 hours with a bunch of people.
Yeah,
fist fights happen, and they happened a lot. So yeah, I've been in lots of fights. EDH420, Matt, based on your feelings of iteration over innovation, where does Elden Ring sit for you, and is it the best Souls game or your favorite?
It sits pretty well. As I said before, I do think the execution on it is pretty good, but I don't think it's particularly anything special from an open world perspective. I do not understand why people keep praising it as like the best open world ever, when the only real difference between it and anything else is it doesn't have any markers. I guess that counts, but you can turn those off in almost every open world game. Because, like, man, I just did another one of those damn insta-death chariot, like, dungeons. And, like, because there have been, like, 3 of those, and there's, like, 10 freaking catacombs that all look the same with the same gargoyles in them. Like, it's copy-paste shit, just as much as any other open-world thing. And the thing I get at the end of the dungeon is just as useless to me as every other thing at the end of any other open-world dungeon or outpost liberation or whatever. Like, it's still fun to me because I like open world, so I like finding those things and going through the little dungeon and doing that. I mean, cool. I'm not saying I dislike it, but I am saying it's not any different than anything else I've played in that same open world realm. Like, it doesn't do it any better. I don't think it does it better than Breath of the Wild, because at least when I find the same thing in Elden Ring, it's going to take me more like 20 minutes instead of like 2 minutes to do the same puzzle in a shrine, and then the thing I get at the end of the Breath of the Wild thing is going to break in 5 minutes.
Yeah. If you're lucky.
Yeah, but
it'll last 5 minutes.
But yeah, so I don't think it doesn't blow my doors off or anything. I think it's very solid. I do believe that there will never be another FromSoft game that isn't open world.
Yeah, no way.
Why
would they go back?
This is their success formula now. In fact, I would be shocked if the next game is an Elden Ring 2.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
There's no way.
They're going to make like 5 more Elden Rings, Matt.
But
you sell basically double what you sold your other games. You're just going to keep making them.
In terms of how it ranks in the other ones, I think my favorite is still. I think I still put Bloodborne and Sekiro over this one, but I do think it's better than any of the Souls games.
Okay.
I do like it better than Dark Souls or any of the Dark Souls or any of the Demon Souls, and in part because I think it's the best magic they've ever done. I think it's you playing as a sorcerer is the best in Elden Ring of any of the From games. And that was also one of the reasons I like Dark Souls 2 was because the magic system let you play as a pure sorcerer more easily than 1 and 2. And it wasn't an insta-win thing like Demon Souls was. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do like it a lot, but I would still put it maybe number 3 after Bloodborne and Sekiro, which are, if you want to count Sekiro as a Souls game, which I think close enough. It's a FromSoft game. Yeah. It's still in the formula. It just deviates a lot more.
For me, it's Sekiro and Elden Ring are my 2 favorites.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Elden Ring definitely learned a lot from Sekiro. Like, there's a lot of Sekiro's combat in sort of the sensibilities of how Elden Rings works.
They're the 2 games I played the most of all their games. The ones I could stand to play the most. So, by default, those are my 2 faves.
So, yeah, I think it...
I'm obviously not the expert on
as
these
the
games.
dust settles, I think I'm pretty darn happy with it. But, yeah. I think it is weirdly overpraised in elements that, like, especially the open world stuff. Where I'm just like, I have to chalk that up to people not really playing a lot of open world games and just saying they hate them. But like, I said the same thing about Breath of the Wild, and I am also not, I'm not looking forward to every single video game conversation boiling down to Elden Ring until Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, and then every video game conversation boils down to Breath of the Wild 2. Until the next FromSoft game comes out, and then every video game conversation boils down to whatever that game is. It's just sort of the pattern now. Mm-hmm. Like, everything has to get compared to either the latest FromSoft game or the latest Zelda game, and good luck if you want to talk about anything else.
Yeah. Threadzilla says, would your opinion of Ghostwire Tokyo change if it were 2 to 3 hours shorter and maybe in the $40 price range? 2 to 3 hours shorter, no. That would negatively impact my impression of the game because it's not very big in the first place. In the $40 price range, yes, because that's probably what it should be priced. Also, someone last week, when I was talking about the game, asked me what happens with the open world after you finish the game, and I had not checked. Well, I went back and checked for you. I don't even know if they're on the stream this week, but maybe you'll watch the archive. And you can go back into the open world, but it's weird. It actually takes you kind of back. Like, I don't want to spoil much, but like, when you go back into the open world, like, you have to... There's 6 chapters in the game, and when you go back into the open world, you're on chapter 4. That's all I'm going to say. So it's weird how it handles it, but you can go back and keep going and doing the side missions and stuff like that if you want.
Also, somebody mentioning Elden Ring New Game Plus, Nox Eternitatis.
Well, we butcher his name every week.
Reminds me, Tiny Tina does not have a New Game Plus.
It doesn't?
No.
Weird.
Which is weird.
For that game.
For Borderlands,
really weird.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. But yeah, otherwise my impressions of Ghostwire Tokyo stand from last week. Anything else? Drifter J, I kind of want to hear young Shane stories now. I know you don't. You have to read my book someday.
Not until the statute of limitations is up.
Yeah, exactly. I think most of it they are, but there's no statute of limitations on my reputation, though.
And there's no statute of limitations on murder.
No, I never did that. All right, last one.
I mean, you knew of when Will Smith went up. That's the thing, is Chris Rock forgot that Will Smith's from Philly.
Right. He did. Yeah, that was straight up West Philly stuff right there, what he did. And,
born and raised.
Yeah, not something to be proud of.
No.
Erebus Jones, do you think Sony will off monthly upgrade options for the new PlayStation Plus tiers for those who buy the cheaper yearly packages? I.e., can I buy a year of Essential and then upgrade to Extra just for a month for a cost, but allow users to revert to their cheaper sub once that month expires?
That's an interesting concept.
I.e., can we dip into Extra or Premium without having to be on a month-to-month contract?
That's an interesting... I mean, because previously stuff like that generally worked like you could only add on... You could do a full upgrade permanently to your subscription, or you could add on months to the end of where your yearly ran out.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I would think that what you're describing is a little too consumer friendly to exist.
Yeah, I would also argue that most people will never think of it and would never try to do it anyway. And so I don't think Sony would try to stop it because of that. If it became a thing, then I think maybe Sony would...
Yeah, I think in that situation, you would probably be better off creating a new account and just subscribing for 1 month.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what that would... I mean, I guess like if you get like a 3-month early God of War Ragnarok demo or something that you can only play through premium, like I guess...
They start doing dirty stuff like that.
Yeah.
That could be bad.
I mean, why else do you put those in that tier?
I know.
Frankly.
Yep, I know.
Not to cast aspersions on Sony's intentions, but you're certainly setting the board for some shady shit there.
It's been so good until now. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt until they prove otherwise. I think that's only fair. Okay, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 294. Thanks as always to everyone who showed up on the stream and stayed in the chat. Great questions for Q&A this week as well. We'll be back next Tuesday right here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. If you're listening to this show on any of the podcast services it's on, and it's on all of them, please leave us a review at the very least. But what we would really appreciate is if you could go to patreon.com/sifted and drop us a pledge. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early, except for Good Morning Gaming, though our patrons still get the podcast feeds of that show exclusively, which is the ideal way to consume the show. We've had some people on YouTube who really like the show, and they're like, hey, like, why isn't there a free podcast feed for this? It's like, bro, we're giving it to you day and date with our patrons. Like, so if you want the podcast version of GMG, which is easily the best way to consume the show, head on over to patreon.com/sifted and drop us a pledge. If you're broke, and I've been there, you can help us out with a free $2.50 every month by subscribing to our Twitch channel with Twitch Prime. The instructions for that are down in the show description if you're watching the show on YouTube. So Matt, another great show. Thanks for opening up your home for another episode of GameFace. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.